And good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my channel and yours, Mike Shriver Ministries, right here on YouTube. We have some interesting news this morning as soon as I hit this page to refresh it. There we go. There we are. To my channel and yours, Mike Shriver Ministries, right here on YouTube. Oh, good. Now I can't hear myself. Okay, so that's good. That's good. Okay, so video number one. Let's just start here at video number one and work our way up to the more interesting parts of the news this morning, because I want to get more people in here, you know, so that they can hear the war stuff. Now, I want to know why President Trump, knowing that there's been some sort of massive change where his enemies aren't the Ayatollahs apparently anymore. I think they're all dead and gone, but now it's generals that have taken over the IRGC, the Iranian Guard Corps. I wonder why we're not getting any reports of us targeting them, unless they are, and they're secretly just keeping it secret. That we're bombing their bases, we're bombing their locations of these generals. Something's got to be done. I'm tired of Trump waiting. I'm sick of it. Why are we hesitating? I know that, well, bless Jesus, we got new leaders now. These new leaders just took over 2 ships in the Hormuz Strait and have claimed those ships for their own. And what is our response? Weakness. We got the muscle. We've got the strength. And there is a good cause. And we do nothing.
Millions in donations to leaders of hate groups that it swore to fight.
Except talk.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups.
All we do is
instead
talk.
Manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to...
Carlos, bombshell from the DOJ. The Southern Poverty Law Center now facing a series of federal charges. The feds accuse the nonprofit of secretly funneling millions in donations to leaders of hate groups that it swore to fight.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
This includes 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. Officials say more than $3 million went to members of groups like
I hope you're right.
And even
I hope you're right.
KKK members. In a statement to Fox News Digital, the interim CEO of the Southern Poverty Law Center says,
I don't want us to keep sitting on our hands.
Allegations levied against us. We will vigorously defend ourselves, our staff, and our work. We will continue to fight hate. With that, let's bring in Fox News contributor and criminal defense attorney Josh Ritter. I mean, Josh, how shocking are these allegations?
They gotta be shocking. You call yourself the Poverty Law Center, and yet you're ripping people off.
Josh, we lost your mic there for a second. Question I pose to you: how shocking are these allegations to you? Your answer, sir.
Yeah, they're very shocking when you consider how far outside of their lane they were on all of this. The way that they tried to describe it is that they were developing informants. I mean, they describe it as almost as if they were acting as a quasi-law enforcement agency. Not only were they not doing that, they were funding the groups that they are proposedly fighting against, and they were committing federal crimes. So it sounds like the way that the DOJ is looking at this is that this was obviously fraud to the contributors who were...
Today's Mike Shriver Ministries word of the day is quasi. Can somebody look up the word quasi for me? Because I'm going to start using that word quasi. I love it.
Giving this money, not telling them where the money was actually going. And then they were laundering the money by turning it over to these quote-unquote informants. The whole thing is an absolute mess and really shocking.
Let's talk a little bit more about the informants, because while a government entity is allowed to pay informants to gather information, can a private entity implant an informant in another private entity in order to gain information? Based upon my reading of the law, that's illegal. What say you, Counselor?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go ahead and do it, and if you're doing it, you're committing fraud, and that's exactly what they were doing here. I don't know where they got this idea that this was somehow within their edict of what they're telling their contributors they were set out to do. But this is really wild stuff. I mean, that's exactly what it is. The way that you described it is that they were operating outside of the law by saying that they were developing informants.
In the law, we always talk about bet the company cases. Usually that's in the civil context. This is a criminal context. Could this mark the end of the Southern Poverty Law Center, Josh?
Well, it's going to be a huge problem. I mean, if the DOJ pursues this to its ultimate end here, you're looking at, potential prison time for those who are involved. I don't know how far it goes. I don't know if they can direct it to some, people within that organization that were operating without the knowledge of others involved. But if this was a systematic, wide procedure that was taking place, you might be talking about something that cataclysmic.
Yeah, the cataclysmic, shocking, whatever word you want to use, this was big. Meantime, I want to go back to a case we've been talking to you about for a while now. 16-year-old Timothy Hudson, who has been formally charged with first-degree murder and aggravated sexual abuse in the death of his 18-year-old stepsister, Anna Kepner, remember, cruise ship cabin back in November, had his lawyer file a not guilty plea. He will not appear in court at all while he remains out among the public and not behind bars. In response, Anna Kepner's biological father, Christopher, giving a statement to the Daily Mail on these charges, quote, "I want to see him in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He does not need to be free. He does not need to be in the general public around my kids or women in general." Josh, have you ever seen a situation where an accused murderer like this is allowed to repeatedly avoid both appearing in court and being behind bars?
No, there's some sort of bizarre way that this all developed that they're taking advantage
I'm not
of.
mad.
And I think that the victim's family is rightfully indignant about the whole thing. Had he been
I just think
filed on
something
directly
needs to be
as an
done,
adult,
and the
bail
longer,
would have
hi
been set, and it would
Patty,
have been extremely high.
the
if bail was
longer
set at all.
we
I mean, you're
wait,
talking about a first-degree murder here, also involving
the more they
sexual
can
assault. Many times in
regroup.
those instances, you do not see bail set, and that person just remains
They've
in custody.
broken the
So
treaty
the fact that
on several occasions, and we sit on our hands. We need to take them to Pound Town.
And then turning it into an adult
frustrating.
matter. I think
I'm not
somehow
mad.
it's
I'm
been
not
lost in the
understanding.
cracks that he
Perhaps we'll get
has not had bail
a
set,
revelation of why
I'm surprised that
he's
prosecutors
doing
didn't
nothing.
demand his appearance so that they could consider bail at this hearing.
But bizarre is the proper
Sad.
word that you use right off the bat. I just
Only
feel
God
so
knows
bad
what's happening
for
to those people.
this father, the family of Anna Kepner, because they obviously went through the loss of their child, but now have to deal with this continuing indignity that, under the law, to your point, Josh, makes no sense. Josh Ritter, thank you for your time and your insight on both of these. We appreciate it.
That the Southern Poverty Law
Be sure
Center,
to like
on
and
top
subscribe
of
for all the Fox
this
News latest on
widespread,
YouTube and catch full
decade-long,
shows
multi-
streaming
And here we
now
go
on
to
Fox
another
One.
video
Conducted more
right
criminal
here,
activity.
right now. There
They
is
attempted
no
to
place
hide
I'd rather be.
their criminal
Except for
activity
church.
from our financial
During the Holy
banking
Ghost
network.
blowout. Okay, here we
They
go.
set up shell companies and entities around America so that the financial institutions that we
To
rely on
another
as everyday
alert,
Americans
at least 3 cargo ships have been
in believing
reported,
that money
been hit
was
by
not coming from
Iranian
the Southern
Oh, wait a
Poverty Law
minute.
Center
Small little
in the
Wait a
perpetration
minute.
of this
in the
scheme.
I
Strait
see
of
where the
Hormuz,
problem
and it happened
is.
this morning.
Fictitious entities
Meanwhile,
they set
President
up
Trump
to
has extended his
perpetuate this
ceasefire
ongoing
deadline,
fraud.
citing a fractured regime. And
This
Matt
is
Finn
a
is live in
serious and
Islamabad,
egregious
Pakistan,
violation
with the
of a
latest
group
for us. Hey, Matt.
Hold on, I'm going to
Hi,
start
Ainsley.
this one
there
over.
was supposed to be a ceasefire, but we are getting.
Maddie, meanwhile, to another alert.
Okay, I
at
started
least 3
it over.
cargo ships have been reported
Fix the
been
problem.
hit by Iranian gunfires in those small little fast boats in the Strait of Hormuz, and it happened this morning.
Meanwhile, President Trump has
yeah.
extended his ceasefire deadline, citing a fractured regime. And Matt Finn is live in Islamabad, Pakistan.
Sure
with
he
the
is,
latest
but
for us.
not
Hey,
fast
Matt.
enough.
Hi, Ainsley. There was supposed to be a ceasefire, but we are getting these reports of 3 separate ships attacked in the Strait of Hormuz this morning. The third cargo ship, the most recent, reportedly has been attacked while attempting to transit the strait. It may have a Panama flag on it. And earlier, the British military reported one of its ships was attacked as well.
I know it, but we're trusting that he'll be doing something soon, militarily.
Here in Pakistan, both the president
Yeah, he
and
will.
Pakistan
He will.
Prime
We
Minister
got to have faith
left it open-ended,
in the Lord,
possibility of peace talks
and then
happening
that
here.
Trump will
We
do
saw
the
how
right thing.
touch and go it was over the past couple of days. There was
How you doing,
the
Robbie?
possibility
Good
of
morning.
peace talks happening today, and that obviously did not happen. Our White House producer Pat Ward says any further updates about in-person meetings on Iran will be announced.
Patty,
by the
how
White
you
House.
feeling today? I hope all is well
for
for
you.
you.
Some recent updates, writing on Truth. Iran is collapsing financially. They want the Strait of Hormuz opened immediately, starving for cash, losing $500 million a day. Military and police complaining that they are not getting paid SOS. The president also writing, Iran doesn't want the Strait of Hormuz closed. They want it open so they can make $500 million a day, which is therefore what they are losing if it's closed. They only say they want it closed because I have it totally blockaded. So they merely want to save face. People approached me 4 days ago saying, sir, Iran wants to open up the strait immediately, but if we do that, there can never be a deal with Iran unless we blow up the rest of their country, their leaders included President Donald J. Trump. Now, also happening today, the UK and France are hosting discussions with 30 other countries about plans to open.
Yeah,
the
this
Strait of
is
Hormuz.
interesting too.
I did an interview
Europe is
with the head of the European
thinking about doing
ship
something now that we've done all the
and they
action,
say
the
that
hard
some of
work.
these
We did the
companies are
heavy
losing
lifting.
millions of dollars
Now
a day.
Europe
So
wants to
the
sneak
UK
right on
and Europe is
in.
very pressed to get that
Hey,
strait
for
open
real
right
with
now.
Mike,
Back to you,
how's it
Bessent.
going?
All right, thanks
You got a
so
great
much, Matt.
name.
You know, it's amazing what's happening right now because one, we're victims of our own success, killing so many
It was not
military
open,
leaders as well
not
as
to the
political
extreme
leaders.
where the
They
people
now
didn't have to
a
worry about
rivalry
it.
playing out in real time in front of us between the political wing of the party, evil, but the really evil, military first, the IRGC. They're battling with each other in order to get a unified
You know what?
mission.
Get this
And up
Wilbur
until the
out of my
last minute,
channel. I can't
understand
do
that
it right now
it
until I
looked
get
like,
what was going
they
on
were all set to
fixed.
get on a
Get him
plane to
out
go
of
to
here.
Pakistan. They got word.
Jeez.
The Pakistani said
Shut
Iran was
up.
going to show up, and at the last minute they said Iran's not going to send any delegation. So we pulled back and we
Yeah.
held off. And the president said, you know, we could probably go. He's probably thinking I could go back to the fight, but I think they should at least come back to us either a state of belligerence, let's bring it on, or a state of here's my, this is what I'd like to do, Ains.
Well, the president was tweeting about this on Truth Social, talking about how much money they're losing. They're losing $500 million a day with the strait being closed. So we want to dismantle the nuclear program in Iran until they give us that enriched uranium and agree to dismantle. Then we'll continue to keep that strait closed, and they will continue to lose money, and we will bleed them dry, and we'll continue that economic pressure. But Lawrence, the problem is as Brian was mentioning with the negotiations, Iran can't communicate, first of all, so they have to go back and forth and try to find their supreme leader without being caught and without being traced.
Handwritten notes.
Yeah, the senior leader is nowhere to be seen. And number three, there's that power struggle between the Iranian parliament speaker, Gilibov, and the IRG. He wants
the IRG's controlling everything. Jade's in the house. Good morning, Jade. How are you this beautiful April morning? It's going to be 75 today,
Yeah,
I
so
think.
the regime is in total chaos. They have no leadership right now. No one is really in control. It looks like the supreme leader is still wounded, battered. They can't communicate.
Come on, President Trump.
Because the
Come on.
Israelis and the Mossadists take over that. The pagers just don't work for them as well. They're pretty much down to carrier pigeons. They can't use boats. They
Carrier
can't
pigeons.
use drones to
Funny.
communicate.
That's true, though.
And so what you
With
have
Iran,
now is that the people with the guns now are controlling the operation. Now, the president wants to have this debate and allow them to get their act together. It looks like the Pakistanians are trying to convince the political leadership as well as the military leadership to get on the same page. But at some point, the president is going to lose his patience. And I think we're going to be right back to the
Hurry up.
battlefield, guys.
Lose your
How
patience.
inappropriate was Senator Chris Murphy yesterday? First off, you know about his comments in Barcelona when he went off the map, addressing a bunch of socialists, ripping our country, saying we're run by a dictator. Governor Walz, even more embarrassing, really to himself. He just doesn't
Tim
realize
Walz
it.
is a
Ripping
joke,
our country,
a
saying the
bad
most
joke.
horrific things, saying our president
He's
basically
such a
has
traitor.
lost his mind, judging by the guy that he was trumpeting. Joe Biden, he was the biggest defender of Joe Biden. This guy goes to Barcelona and rips our president. And then you have Chris Murphy. When the Iranians came out and they said at least 20, and they put this out, at least 26 Iranian shadow fleet vessels bypassed the U.S. blockade, Murphy put this on a retweet. He wrote, awesome.
He wrote awesome and got backlash from both sides, Democrats and Republicans. The Pentagon said, first of all, that report is completely false. Then they called Murphy's reaction shameful. Senator John Cornyn and the libs of TikToks, they accused Murphy of being a traitor and for rooting for Iran. And that's what we've heard from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. He keeps saying, whose side are you on? As Americans, you shouldn't be rooting for Iran. You should be rooting for our country, even if you didn't vote for the president.
But the liberals are traitors and should be arrested, tried, and God knows what happens to him if found guilty. We'll leave that in God's hands.
Yeah, so after all the pushback, because many Americans are outraged.
How many deaths are the liberals responsible for in Congress?
What did you mean by this? And he said that it was
Lake and Riley,
sarcasm. Here he is.
all the other women. Young
Twitter's
girls.
become kind of a cesspool. I probably should give up on sarcasm on Twitter. Obviously, anybody that's seen anything that I have said about Trump's war knows that I think it's bungled, mismanaged, and he should end it as quickly as possible.
Bungled, mismanaged. Shut up, you hack.
I guess that's allowed on Twitter any longer.
Lawrence, it had nothing to do with Twitter. This has nothing to do with X.
Yeah.
At all. That's your comment. And if it was an anomaly, where'd that come from? No.
Yeah,
Pelosi
Pelosi and Adam Shift need to go, too.
Senators from Virginia. If you watch him,
we put him on trial
Arizona, and if you see Chris
and
Murphy,
hold them responsible for Lake and Riley and all the other young girls and even women that were killed.
Defiance is underlined
and we know what happens in some places if you're found guilty of treason.
Should have happened when they're already on the record talking about Iran needed to be addressed in a nuclear program that can't take root. So I don't buy for 1 second that this is sarcasm.
Yeah, I think what happened is he got pushback from both sides, realized
it went well. I was only there about 15 minutes because we were waiting. For one, I wasn't able to get to the car fast enough. And so my son-in-law was very much impatient. And then we had to drive 20 miles west. And then we get to the place where he thought we were supposed to go and found out he was given the wrong address. We waited in one driveway for like 15 minutes for the person to come out. And so by the time almost 2 hours had passed, we finally got to the baby shower, and it was basically over. There was only 10 minutes left. And that's okay. I'd never been invited to a baby shower. I didn't mind going. It was my daughter. But in the end, it was almost pointless to go because waiting on that one girl for nearly an hour, just over an hour, not knowing where she was, that was kind of frustrating, especially to my son-in-law. I'm older, so I'm just like, whatever. And then he drove doing over 100 miles an hour at some points because I was in the front. I looked right at the speedometer. He was doing 80 around S-curves with my younger daughter in the back seat. I had a problem with that. I don't care if it's just me in there. I thought it was kind of fun. But when you got my 18-year-old in the back seat and you're not thinking it because you're having a temper tantrum, I have a problem with that. And so I asked my daughter, Faith, and her man to give us a ride home. And they did, like a good daughter. She helped me out. So I didn't feel safe. And so I had found a different ride home for my daughter and I. One that had people that didn't hold anger like a 12-year-old.
This was so anti-American. He probably sat with his team and said, okay, what should I say?
Maybe not hold anger.
You could say
acted
sarcasm.
Angry like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, let's go
doing
with
100
that
miles an hour in a giant
I
pickup
didn't see
truck
any
isn't
Democrats
smart.
pushing back. Maybe Fetterman, who says went out of his way.
Fetterman said that he was really the only Democrat that was supporting this and what was happening. And if you watch other networks,
Fetterman's awesome. I like Fetterman.
How long this is taking. And Donald Trump, 2 days ago. Go ahead, Lawrence. Well, I was just going to say, Donald Trump put on X how long all of the wars have taken. Years and years
Thank you,
and years.
Margaret. Yeah, I couldn't allow my other daughter to be put in danger because he's mad.
He may have put that on X, but he's not the only one that's rooting against the military and the president during this operation. We see it on the Sunday shows. We see it every night on the other networks saying that we're not winning, that the president is trapped, that the president has panicked,
I've had
that he's
meltdowns
caved.
before.
They're making
clarify.
jokes about it. So again, as I've said since the beginning of this conflict, what do you think the men and women that are fighting overseas, that their families...
All of us as adults have had meltdowns, but we don't do 100 miles per hour in a really heavy pickup truck. That it was so tall. That pickup truck is so tall. I literally almost need a stepladder. But for the fact that he was doing 100 miles an hour, passing 3-4 cars at a time on M115 in Michigan, I had a problem with that. And the fact that he was doing 80, 85 around S curves with my little girl in the back seat, I had a problem with that. I wish I would have just stayed home. But hey, I got to see my daughters. I got to see my grandbaby. Oh, I held him up, and he was just laughing at me. I was playing peekaboo. Oh, it was so cool. It's so cool to finally have a grandchild. And then my daughter, the baby shower, she's due on May 11th. I said, hold that baby in there for 12 more days. Hold out for 2 more weeks so we can honor your Grandma Shriver and have your baby, my second grandson, have that baby on the 23rd of May. And what's 12 more days? You already went 9 months.
To dismantle violent extremist groups, but in turn actually only fuel the hatred.
Mute this one.
This is an important case brought by the...
Kash is so excited his video keeps playing automatically because I keep hitting the wrong stupid button. Okay. Yeah, so I got to see my kids and all that. Exactly, Margaret. He wasn't. He needs to grow up. Yeah. When you're 30 years old and you're or just over 30, I think, and you're acting like that, that's not maturity. That is not good. And listen, I don't hate my son-in-law. I can disagree with somebody without hating them. But the liberal people don't agree with me. If you disagree with their lifestyle, well, bless Jesus. You have an opinion, Brother Shriver. So that means you hate me because I got an opinion about my life. No, it doesn't. God has commanded us, Jesus, not this Allah garbage. Jesus has commanded us to even love our enemies and pray for those that despitefully use you and say all manner of evil against you. That is true maturity. And I've even had temper tantrums, but by God, I don't do warp 9.975 around curves and then break the warp barrier on straightaways with somebody in the car that is family. So, yeah. All right, punch it, Chewy. I'll be right back. Moderators, you have the bridge, number one.
What do they think about this? Do you not think they're perturbed that you're painting this military success so far as some type of win for the Iranians? I mean,
I can wait till I get the next video up.
Programs have been
this is almost over.
Propaganda. Every time
see, 3 ships attacked, and what are we doing? Well, let's just wait to see if, insane people will come to the table.
Right. We got to just find a way to neutralize that mosquito navy that Iran has. And at the same time, they want us to end the blockade. We're not ending the blockade.
That's right.
So we'll see when JD.
Brian Kilmeade speaks wisdom. We're not ending the blockade. And listen, I know we don't want to have innocent people hurt. But you know what? These innocent people of Iran are crying out for their freedom, as we did against British tyranny to become a nation that is at 250 years old almost. We are just a few months away. And look at the cross. You know why they put that cross there? Because people know our nation was founded on the freedom of religion. However, out of the 55 men that wrote our Constitution, 52 of the 55 were active members of their churches. So our nation is founded on Christian principles and founded on the gospel of Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Kosai Makes, good morning. How you doing, buddy? Kose makes. Kose is one of the youngest subscribers to this channel. 16 years old. He's been with me for 6-7 months. He was with us when the channel really started to pick up, probably in December or January. And then the war happened, and we just punched it up to warp 9, and we've been flying on this channel. It's awesome. It's awesome. To God be the glory. I'm just a man. All right, here we go with another video right here, right now. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome back. New overnight, an Iranian gunboat reportedly fired on at least 2 ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
Nah, we'll just ignore and act like that never happened. That's all right.
Despite the fact that the president announced an extension of the ceasefire yesterday, saying that the U.S. will still maintain the blockade on Iranian ports.
But I give him credit for the blockade.
The president wrote on Truth Social this: Iran is losing $500 million a day as the strait remains.
You see, I don't always agree with everything the president does. I don't. I only agree with 99.9% of it. This is the 0.1% where I think he's making a mistake. He should have never stopped bombing them. He should have took out their power plants and their bridges and pounded them into submission. The Iranian people are crying for their freedom. They want to be able to go to college. The women want to go to college, as they should. I got 4 daughters. You bet I support women's rights. They should be able to go to college and get them stupid headdresses off their heads. You know why they're forced to wear them? You know why? I got the receipts. It's because they're afraid. The men are. Their husbands, if you want to call them that, the way they're treated. Their husbands don't want other men lusting after their women. Boo-hoo-hoo. It's not the woman's fault. It is the lustful hearts of these other men and the spirit of jealousy in their husbands that's causing this problem. Not the women. Leave the women and the girls alone. Men of Iran.
Closed by the United States, calling the regime starving for cash.
I'll be back.
Now is the Heritage
Moderators,
Foundation Vice President
you
of
have the
National
bridge,
Security,
number 1.
Victoria Coates. Victoria, great to see you. What's your status check here on this war?
Well, good morning, Maria. Yes, I think the president's absolutely correct. The second front of this war is the economic front, and Iran has sustained such systematic damage over the course of the last 7-8 weeks that they really can't recover. And what we're seeing is the fracturing of the regime, the fact that they have no command and control as we would understand it. No one can make a decision, and they're hemorrhaging cash. And so I think in this case, the time is entirely on the president's side. We can wait, keep this blockade on, keep starving them of oil exports, and see if there's anything we can still work with there, or if the Iranian people decide to make a change.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to me that the Iranians just keep getting up, right? I mean, U.S. forces conducted an operation on a stateless sanctioned oil tanker in the Indo-Pacific region yesterday. Maritime tracking data showed that the vessel departed from China, loaded up with oil on Iran's Karg Island before headed back to sea. Xi Jinping held a phone call with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on Monday. He's calling for an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire and for the strait to open. So you've got China also feeling the economic pain from this blockade that the U.S. has put in place. Your thoughts?
No, I think Chairman Xi very much wants the strait back open. He wants his cheap oil coming out of Iran. But let's also look at the rest of the region. We've had the UAE take some very strong action over the course of the last 2 days to start dismantling the illicit terrorist financing networks that have been permitted to operate out of Dubai. That's one of Iran's major economic lifelines. And then we had the government of Syria going after their drug smuggling rings that they've been operating through Syria, another cash lifeline for the regime. So the region is uniting against Iran, and they're escape routes, if you will, the ways that they've connected to the regional economy are all being cut off. So these chickens are coming home to roost, and I don't know that this regime has that much longer to hang on.
I have
And,
one of my
and
chickens
they're
coming
fighting
home
to
to
the end,
roost
man.
May
This is
1st.
unbelievable. Now, the president was
My
not very
son's
happy
moved back
with
from
our
North
European
Carolina.
allies during my interview with him last
I
week,
couldn't
saying
be
that we don't
happier.
have the same relationship
Coming
with
back
countries
home.
like Italy, France, Germany, because they were not helpful during this conflict. And yet, new information this morning: NATO jets intercepted multiple strategic bombers and fighter jets from Russia over the Baltic Sea. The Russian ministry said that the flights were scheduled and occurred in neutral territory, which included 2 supersonic missiles in addition to 10 fighters, all met with fighter jets from France, Sweden, Finland, Poland, Denmark, and Romania. Victoria, what's your take on our NATO allies?
Yeah, no, NATO should have, at the beginning of this war, said to President Trump,
Now
look,
NATO
you're
wants
gonna
to
take
do
this action
something.
against Iran. We support it.
We
but
do
we're
the
gonna
hefty
focus on
living
Europe.
or
We're gonna
hefty
take care of European
lifting.
security. We're now in year
Let me
5
try that
of
again.
Putin's 3-day war,
Hefty
and Europe
lifting.
has done nothing to resolve it.
And
we
Europe
have
comes
these
on
kinds
in
of
after
provocative
that's
actions
done.
out of Russia. So I think what I call old Europe, the Germans, the UK, the French, the Italians need to focus on their defenses. These are the biggest economies in Europe. They need to get to 5% of GDP on defense. And we're going into the NATO summit in Ankara in about 6 weeks. And I think the Europeans are going to have some very difficult discussions about how committed they are to the defense of their own continent.
You know, I saw something on social media last night, and it reminded me of when Iran held our Navy officers and made them get on their knees. Do you remember this? And that was under President Obama. You know, they also held 66 diplomats hostage for 444 days when they were chanting death to America while describing the United States as the great Satan. I mean, Victoria, it's no secret that Iran has been attacking the United States and our military for a long time, but President Trump was the first president to actually do something about it.
Absolutely.
Thank God for President Trump. Best president we've probably ever had. Next to Lincoln and Washington, but they were under circumstances that were extreme.
Being held hostage, and President Carter essentially being held hostage in the White House by the Iranians. And so we've had presidents of both parties for these almost 5 decades saying that they were going to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, saying that they're an enemy regime. President Trump's the first one to actually do something about it. And so that's why this operation is so critical for our safety. This isn't about some, remaking of the Middle East as democracy. This is about keeping the American people safe and getting rid of a horrible, horrible threat to us, which would be a nuclear weapon in the hands of this regime. So whatever comes next, at least it's going to be different from what we've been doing for the last 47 years.
Yeah, but the president, during my interview last week said that he thought that the war was close to ending. And here we have the Iranians. They continue to keep getting up and fighting. They obviously are not agreeing or haven't agreed so far to stop their enrichment and stop their efforts to get a nuclear weapon. Are you surprised by that?
No, because I think at this point it's the only thing that's preventing them from being essentially North Korea on the Persian Gulf, but without a nuclear weapon. The only reason anybody pays attention to North Korea is because they have nuclear weapons. Yeah. So I think the Iranians have made horrible decisions.
My cat is abusing me again with her tail.
Failed country. All they have left to cling to is their nuclear program. So I'm not surprised, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it for that much longer.
And do you advise the administration that they should lift sanctions on Iran? Should Iran make this promise? I mean, look, they lied to us.
They lie. They lie like a rug.
They didn't have long-range missiles. They sent a long-range
They're
missile
a rug.
into the Diego
They're lying
Garcia
everywhere.
Islands. So what is your take on the U.S.'s response? Should we actually get a deal? The president said that he was expecting them to sign a deal last night, and we don't have that yet. But do you think
Instead, we
that
have ships being
ultimately
fired on,
the sanctions
and
will be lifted if, in fact, we do see an agreement?
No, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. And the president's been pretty clear about this. There's not going to be any cash being sent to them, and you can lift the sanctions.
That's what Obama's do.
If they meet certain benchmarks.
That's what the
So
Messiah
that's where
did.
They are leverage over them, and given the state of their economy, that's what they're desperate for. So I don't think the president or the Secretary of the Treasury need to be in any hurry to lift those sanctions.
All right, Victoria, great to talk with you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Victoria. And here we go with another video, and then I'll be right back again. Got to do something with this mop, or this dead cat on my head's got to go. It's awful. Got to do something with it. And here we go with another video right here, right now, on the channel that never seems to sleep, nor do we slumber. Okay, we do get tired, so I do slumber. It's God that protects Israel that never sleeps and never slumbers. Amen. Okay. Here we go. Punch it. Hey, Chewy, punch it.
News out of the Middle East. Iranian state media claiming the country attacked 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and 2 of the vessels are apparently now in the control of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard.
This is Axios reports that President Trump is giving Iran 3 to 5 days to unify behind a ceasefire counteroffer. That's getting their side on the same page, let alone getting us on the same page. If we take care,
or we take out that little island of theirs,
Lucas,
with all the oil production that happens on it and processing, they're in trouble.
Just hours after President Trump extended the ceasefire to Iran indefinitely, it appears that Iran is already breaking it, opening fire on at least 3 vessels in the Strait of Hormuz and commandeering 2 of them.
The longer this war
this
goes on without him doing something, the more gas will go up.
Says,
if we can win this war fast, gas prices can go back down, which will help him in the midterms.
The country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and in all other respects remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussed. Discussions are concluded. Now, early this morning, the first attack by Iranian gunboats took place in the Strait of Hormuz, causing heavy damage to the bridge where you drive the ship, of course. The second attack took place 8 miles off the coast of Iran, the third attack nearby. Ship tracking shows a Panamanian-flagged and Liberian-flagged vessels attacked and seized. Iran's state broadcaster says the 2 vessels are currently inside Iran's territorial waters, being held for inspection of their cargo, documentation, and related records.
That should have never been allowed to happen.
Days ago, on Friday, in fact, when President Trump said Iran would never again close the Strait of Hormuz. Last night, he said financial pressure is key to ending the war, posting, quote,
when you work with liars, you get lies.
The Strait of Hormuz opened immediately, starving for cash, losing $500 million a day. Military and police complaining
those generals don't care.
Getting paid SOS. Now,
they're generals. They live for war,
Islamabad for
not cash.
Round of talks with Iran continues to be on hold. Iran says they are not sending a delegation until the blockade is lifted. And certainly, Brian, you have to imagine that after Iran commandeered 2 ships, attacking 3 of them, that also will jeopardize these talks in Islamabad.
I would say so. Thanks so much. And that's kind of new, Lucas, that we didn't know they were holding on to the ships, UK and Panamanian. And also 21 minutes ago, the senior Iranian advisor says the U.S. blockade is no different than bombing us and must be responded with a military response. And that is the speaker, Mahani Mohammadi, an advisor to the parliament speaker, came out with that statement, we assume, from the speaker. So let's see. Do they want to end the ceasefire, Lawrence?
They don't. They don't want to end it. They wanted time to delay, to regroup, and I don't think it's going to work out for them. I mean, we've been watching them the whole time. We have complete control of the skies. You know, they shot one of our guys down, but we were able to recover both of our pilots. So that didn't go well for their morale as well. So we got control of the sea, control of the skies. Also, those drone facilities, we've knocked most of those out. So again, as the general continued to say, we're on the 5-yard line right now.
Yeah, you're right. We've continuously heard that. We're on the 5-yard line. We've got to finish. We've got to make that touchdown, and we've got to bleed them dry, and that's what President Trump is doing, costing them $500 million a day. They have all this oil. They have nowhere to send it because they can't send it to Carg Island because that oil, those tanks are full, and they want to put them on ships and send them to other countries around the world, but those ships are not allowed to leave their ports, and that's because of President Trump. You would think that they would just hand over their nuclear, your enriched uranium to us? Because is this really worth it? To bleed them dry, to lose their economy?
It seems to be for the IRGC, which might be separate from the foreign minister.
How much longer can they handle this? How much longer?
The one thing they have is that so-called mosquito navy, the small boats that can go and do damage to big boats. We learned a lot from the USS Cole about how to defend ourselves on that, but these other tankers really have no defense.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
I'm on my way back in. Give me just a second. I must have changed the autoplay options for it to play the next video in the line. Of course, I have no clue what the next video is because you never do when that happens. Unless you're actually looking at the screen. Right now, I'm putting aftershave on because, you know. Dun 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 dun. Do 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 do. Computer lights off. Computer kitchen 2 and 3 off. And I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Yay. I am now home. Hello, everybody. I'm back. So good to have you still with us this morning. Sorry about the lack of autoplay, but I am here. Next video, and punch it, Chewy. Right on, right on. I'm Mike Shriver Ministries right here on YouTube.
Military planners from more than 30 countries are set to meet in London today and tomorrow. Their goal is to draw up detailed plans for reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Jeff Paul is in London with more on the France and UK-led initiative.
If they will do it.
What do we think? How's it going to go?
Yeah, Dana, well, officials here in the UK say the planning sessions will build on progress made last week. That is when UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron met among several other countries.
Both of those men are traitors to their nations.
More than a dozen world leaders pledged they were willing to join an international coalition to safeguard shipping.
Fill your nations with Islam.
30
this
nations
is what you're going to
and
get.
their military strategists are expected to attend the conference in London today. Over the next 2 days, they'll work to hash out detailed military plans for the strait once the fighting stops. The UK's Ministry of Defense says the aim is to ensure freedom of navigation in the strait and support a lasting ceasefire.
They won't even listen to the United States, Iran won't. What does Europe make them think they'll listen to them?
Energy Commissioner says even in the best case scenario, the region will likely experience shortages in jet fuel and diesel, impacting both travel and trade.
Gas keeps going down in Michigan every day where I live.
Even years. We're looking at a totally new world order and probably very, very
new world order. There's that phrase again. I'll be right back to let you know what I mean by that.
Now, those attending the summit today are expected to examine their collective military capabilities, command and control arrangements, and how forces could operate in the region when needed. The UK's defense minister says he's confident over the next 2 days that real progress can be made. Dana?
All right, thank you so much, and great to see you there in London, where we will see you for a while. Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe.
I'm on my way back for
good latest on YouTube.
Unless I gotta go to the bathroom.
Shows streaming now on Fox One.
Alrighty, next video. OBS Studio had a software update this morning. So hopefully whatever they updated will make a difference in OBS. I love OBS because it's absolutely free. Took me a while to motivate enough to use it, but here we are, and I'm glad I made that decision. It's paid off dividends. Alrighty, here we go with another video. We got Kash Patel, who I love. I think he's great. He's fantastic. I love him in a totally non-gay way. Here he is right now, right here on Mike Shriver Ministries. Punch it, Chewy.
State and federal offenses. State and federal offenses, totaling over $3 million.
Yes, the Poverty Center.
That the Southern Poverty Law
apparently
Center,
not in so much poverty.
This widespread,
fraud,
conducted more criminal activity. They attempted to hide their criminal activity from our financial.
Hey, Randy's in the house. Good to see you, Randy, man. The Randster, the Randononi, the Randinator. Good to see you, buddy.
Deceived in believing that money was not coming from the Southern Poverty Law Center in the perpetration of this scheme and fraud, but rather fictitious entities they stood up to perpetuate this ongoing fraud. This is a serious and egregious violation of a group that purported to dismantle violent extremist groups, but in turn actually only fueled the hatred. This is an important case brought by President Trump's administration. We're thankful to the president for his leadership.
It went down to 385 in Lake City, Michigan.
Commitment to go out there and wipe out fraud and conspiracy and waste and abuse wherever it occurs, including the Southern Poverty Law Center. Even though this money was made to appear to be coming from legitimate people,
love you too, Randy.
Entities, we at the FBI, with our great partners at the Department of Justice,
in a totally non-gay way,
Alabama, were able to comb through a decade worth of material, a scheme that took a decade to build, so that we were able to follow the money, because money never lies, and they got caught. As the Attorney General said, these charges are varying.
I don't know. I had a dollar bill lied to me one time, and it was really a $5 bill.
Today we're here to announce the charges
it was folded
of the Southern
up,
Poverty Law Center,
and I thought it was $1. And thank you, Jesus. $5 to me is like $500.
Thank you, Director Patel.
In other words, I'm poor.
Why
as far as American standards is for poor.
Is that something that's going to come down the pike? Is this just an indictment of the entity? Can you kind of explain, could people face charges here, or is this the indictment and you're done?
So, yes, I mean, as we said, the indictment, this investigation is very much ongoing, and today the grand jury returned an indictment against only one entity, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and we'll go from there. But as you'll see from the indictment itself, it should be obvious from the indictment that the investigation is ongoing.
And I just want to make sure I understand. You're alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center was paying the leaders.
Yeah, see, it went down 20 cents in Texas. That's beautiful.
Their operations, is that?
I'm not alleging it. The grand jury returned an indictment that says that. And so what the investigation found, according to the indictment that was returned today, is that they were paying. So the Southern Poverty Law Center is raising money, asking folks to give them money to dismantle racism, and over a very long period of time.
Third most important gift he ever gave to humanity.
From donors to pay to
coffee.
They call them
the
field.
Third most important gift God gave to
informants, for information, for access, to just pay them for certain to do certain things, and so yes, that's exactly what the indictment charges.
I was wondering if this is going to expand perhaps to more groups. Perhaps there's been a lot of accusations about particular groups like the Patriot Front that get a lot of traction. And more so, is the government, or is this indictment, I should say, making the case that some of these matters where they've tried at great lengths to sort of make connections to people on the right, Charlottesville was very much associated by the media with being sort of like part of a right-wing kind of thing. They're like good people on both sides type of thing. I mean, are we seeing a sort of the Southern Poverty Law Center was trying to create narratives using these types of groups to, shape American public opinion?
Look, I think what the Southern Poverty Law Center has said over the years is available for the world to see. It's on their website. It's in other forums. The indictment speaks for itself. I'm not going to talk outside the four corners of the indictment. It lays out what the grand jury found, and obviously there's a whole body of public information around what the Southern Poverty Law Center has done over the past several decades.
I mean, in some of these instances, these are groups that have been either their membership has been dismantled or they've definitely fallen out of public view. I'm just wondering the legal theory of how, these payments allegedly went on to actually benefit the groups.
What does the Poverty Law Center do? I guess I don't know. Good morning, Roscoe Pico Train. Coo. Roscoe's here.
Look,
good morning, Roscoe.
Any comments
How are
that we make
he's got the coolest name in the world.
And so what the indictment lays out is payments to individuals
just a good old
leadership
boy.
Positions within these organizations.
Ain't never meaning no harm.
That's what the grand jury found.
Oh,
and so to
yeah,
the extent
that
those individuals receiving received over $1 million, okay, to the extent over several years, to the extent that there's any link between
Roscoe Pico Train
benefits to that organization.
I'll get better at that laugh as time goes.
But
I haven't heard him laugh in probably 30 years. I remember it
it's that individual
very clearly, though.
Informant or what have you. And it's Southern Poverty.
I'm glad you're here with us this morning, Roscoe. I'm glad you're doing well, too.
Look, the payments were not made to these individuals in exchange for a service separate and apart from their work within these organizations. So, that's I think speaks for itself.
And just on an off topic, obviously you've read the Atlantic article that's now a subject of a defamation lawsuit.
Let's look up the Poverty Law Center and see what it's all about.
In litigation now.
Okay, here we go. I'm looking.
Separately, just heard any concerns?
Who founded it?
Supervision over the FBI director about any problems with drinking.
I have a lot of concerns, and my concerns are completely around the anonymous reporting that comes forth constantly. That
Southern Poverty Law Center.
Have an obligation to report.
I will put this on screen if I can get the right information.
And when an entire article is based on anonymous sources, and there's things in the article suggesting, for example, apparently, that senior DOJ personnel were informed of something. That's me. I wasn't informed. No one called me about that. So, listen, I did not read that article. It is the subject of litigation, but I've already spent too much time talking about it. Next question. Go ahead.
Sorry, the FBI director is on camera with the U.S. Olympic hockey team chugging a beer. I mean, do you think that
what does that matter? What?
Director? That has nothing to do with the article.
What?
I mean, look, there's complete hit pieces, and you guys are in this business.
Wow.
And you know what they look like, and the fact that you're asking repeated questions about them almost as an admission of such. But you have a bunch of people who are hiding behind closed curtains, saying things but not willing to say it publicly, and there are certain parts of the article that
crime in Italy. Why are they bringing that up? He's drinking a beer. Who cares? He could have a six-pack. That's not our business. What matters is how he runs his department for our president, who's the greatest president to ever live, except for maybe Washington and Lincoln, but they were under extreme circumstances. FDR was also a great one during wartime. But for the fact that the liberal media is attacking him for chugging a beer, listen, I hate beer. Alcohol destroyed my marriage. I don't drink. I can't stand the stuff. But alcohol destroyed my marriage and tore my family apart. Now, blaming the alcohol is like blaming a gun for killing somebody. You can't really blame the alcohol. It's really the person, right? And I'm not trying to run her down. I'm not. But as a witness of the mercy of God in my life, I can't just shut up about what I went through. But my marriage was destroyed by alcohol, the consumption of alcohol. I can't stand it. Beer is the most foul-tasting ugh. It's like spoiled apple juice, which I suppose it kind of is, right? Because it's fermented. But it's just nasty. Who does that? And I'm not judging if you do. That's between you and Jesus. That's not my business. But for the fact that the liberals bring up these kind of questions, even decent liberals, because I got friends, I got best friends that are Democrats. And they're not Kennedy Democrats, trust me. God, I wish we could have Kennedy Democrats back. I'm talking about JFK Democrats. I should probably be more specific because we do got a John Kennedy who was absolutely fabulous in office. But to attack a man for drinking a beer at a hockey game shows the depth of mental unawareness and the liberal media and Congress. I'm not talking my friends. We have every right to believe what we want to have whatever God, well, they're all false except Jesus, but you can worship whatever you want to, including the flying meatball spaghetti monster. I'm not kidding. I taught on that on my channel. That was a cult from the 1980s, and then it was picked up again in the early 2000s and had followers after it kind of died out. They actually worshiped a flying spaghetti monster, Randy man. I don't worship spaghetti and meatballs. I devour it with Parmesan cheese sprinkled on top. Of course, with spaghetti sauce. Who eats it without it? I mean, it makes no sense. I guess if you don't have it, and I've been there before.
Are blatantly false because apparently I was told something that I wasn't. It's suspicious. In the back.
Oh yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Mr. Acting Attorney General. Can you explain again what the fraud is here exactly? Are you saying it's illegal for the SPLC to pay money to people that are in hate groups, or something about the way this was done?
Yeah, no foul language in here, or I will scream at you and they will kick you out.
No, that's right. It's a good question. So, and again, I summarized the indictment, and it's now public for everybody to read. But the Southern Poverty Law Center
Hey,
is a
awesome.
501c3. Okay, they're
Coyote
required
3,
to,
congratulations.
under the laws associated with a
Congratulations.
nonprofit,
God bless you.
to
We're
have
glad you're
certain
here today.
transparency and honesty in
Welcome
what they're
in.
telling donors they're going to spend money on, and what their mission statement is, and what they're raising money doing. And so, as the indictment points out, there's different ways
Hey,
that
good
they
morning.
raise money,
Matthew Gibson's
and,
in the house. Welcome to Mike Shriver Ministries, America First, pro-Trump YouTube channel, Christian, God above all things channel.
So that's fraud. So that's wire fraud. So
wait a minute. I'm going to rewind that for just a second.
Different ways that they raise money, and
they bring up the KKK.
And no fundraising efforts that the investigation found did they say, oh, and by the way, we're going to give $1 million to the Ku Klux Klan. So
they wouldn't do
that's
that.
fraud. So that's
right,
wire
right.
fraud.
They wouldn't do something like that.
The fraud part of it is you have KYC. You have an obligation to tell your financial institution what the corporation or the entity that you're opening an account for does. And the allegations in the indictment are that these were fictitious companies that were set up, and so there was certain information sworn to by SPLC executives about what the entities were doing that we allege is false.
Can I just follow up on? Can I have one follow-up, Mr.
Go ahead.
On the hiring of Joe DeGenova to work for the department, can you just tell us a little bit? I understand you went down to Florida, perhaps to take part in his swearing in or bring him on board. Can you explain why he's being brought back to the department after 40 years?
So, I mean, look, I think that everybody in this administration, whether it's Department of Justice or elsewhere, we're always looking for good people. And he's somebody who has a deep bench. As you said, he's been in this business for decades. And when we had the opportunity to ask him to join the team and help, we readily did.
I have an on-topic and an off-topic, if you'll allow me. Are you able to explain a little bit more about what led to this investigation? Were you guys tipped off by a former employee, or how did you guys discover this?
No, I can't talk about that. But
Ah.
it's been going on for a long time. There was a time that it was shut down for a while during the last administration. I don't know why, and it was started again over the past year or so, and that brings us to today.
Sorry, you mean the investigation began before this administration and then was shut down during the Biden administration?
That's my understanding.
Honey mustard? Nah, I don't like honey mustard. Ugh. Yeah, barbecue sauce though.
If you can
Barbecue
explain
sauce
why
is
the
cool.
career prosecutor who had been leading that investigation,
Sweet Baby
was
Ray's
removed, and if
hickory
you
smoked
have or
barbecue
had
sauce.
concerns
All the
that
cool people are eating
investigation
it,
is not
and you
moving
should too.
quickly enough.
Right here.
I don't have
I'm
any
Mike Shriver
concerns
Ministries.
about that investigation. And again, the reporting around that really is just a source purely from leaks.
Did we have like a? Did that end? Oh, it ended. I thought maybe we had a technical difficulty because I was looking at something else. But alrighty, here we go with another video. I didn't realize I just ran out of videos. Should be paying closer attention. Alrighty. I want to know, if you don't mind telling, where is everybody coming from that's here today? Oh, here we go. I got a good video right here, right now on Mike Shriver Ministries. Secretary Scott Bessent defends Trump's MAGA-nomics and trade before Senate committee. Now, let me use Scott Bessent as an example of why I don't hate all gay people. I don't hate any of them. And here's what I want to say. Scott Bessent is openly gay. He's married. Although marriage is between a man and a woman, not a man and a man or a woman and a woman. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Somebody didn't get the memo. Not Eve and Eva. Somebody didn't get the memo. But I've been saying this forever. Hire the best one for the job. I don't care if he's as queer as a $2 bill or even a $3 bill for that matter. Hire the best person for the job. I don't care if you have a 6'2" 3/4 white man, tall, strong. If a gay guy can do better than a straight guy, you hire the gay guy. That doesn't mean you're gay. That doesn't mean you support the homosexual community. That means you're being smart and hiring the right person for the right job. Now, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I changed that. And I'll put it in the chat in a second. DEI technically stands for don't expect intelligence. DEI. Don't expect intelligence. Why do I say that? Are you being mean, Brother Shriver? No, I am not mean. I'm being realistic. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, is a racist, sexist ideology introduced by the left years ago. People should be hired not based upon skin color, not based upon sexual orientation or lack thereof, not pronouns, not gender studies, not based upon anything except for merit. And I'm going to put the definition of merit in the chat as well. Hire them based upon merit. In other words, if they're the right one for the job, based upon education, and ability to do said job at a professional or close to level. Not based upon whether or not they're married to a man if they're a man, or a woman if they're a woman. God doesn't recognize that marriage, but they could be the right person for the job because they're good at their job. And so when I found out Scott Bessent has a husband, well, let's just say a domestic partner, because God doesn't recognize that as a marriage. Well, bless Jesus. Bless Jesus. Shriver is against everything except for straight people. I'm not for straight people. Although that is the natural order that God set things up at the beginning. And still stands today. Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. No, Scott Bessent was hired by Trump because Scott Bessent was the best man for the job. I don't care if he is as queer as a $2 bill. He could do the job better than a white man straight, black man straight, Barney straight, anyone straight. He's the best man for the job. And as I change the title of this live, which I can do, I learned that a couple months ago. I think that's pretty cool. We're going to listen to what was said by him this morning, Scott Bessent, about the economy. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent defends Trump's MAGA-nomics and trade before Senate committee, and I have it right here for you, courtesy of Magno News. Scott Bessent before Congress today. All right, guys, you ready? This is good stuff. I like Scott Bessent. I don't care if he is into men. That's between him and Jesus. And as like all of us, if we don't repent and change, we will face the great white throne judgment, Revelation chapter 20, at the time of our death. And since the dead know nothing, including the passage of time, we wake up into eternity either at the rapture or at the great white throne judgment, one of those two places. All right, here we go. And then I got the word of God after this. We're going to break down, we're going to go back to Proverbs 31 and talk about what is a Proverbs 31 woman and forgiveness. You have those two are good. They go hand in hand. And I'll tell you why later. But here we go, right here, right now, on Mike Shriver Ministries. No place I'd rather be, except for maybe KFC, because now it's finger licking good, and I'm hungry. I got chicken, though. So here we go. Punch it, Chewy. Okay, I got to rewind it. How many have... oh, no, I don't got to rewind it.
Good morning. Subcommittee is going to come to order.
Okay. Hearing entitled, A Review of the President's Fiscal Year 2027 Budget Request for the Department of the Treasury. Coverage begins earlier today and continues right here, right now on Mike Shriver Ministries. So this is from today. Just finished a few minutes back.
Good morning. Subcommittee is going to come to order.
Josh Hawley.
Senator Reed's just stepped out to take a quick meeting.
Oh, wait, no, that's
and
not
with his
Josh.
permission, I'm going to go ahead and get us
Josh's
started. This is the first hearing of the fiscal year 2027 cycle for the Financial Services and General Government Subcommittee. Before we begin, I want to welcome Senator John Husted to the subcommittee, who's recently joined the committee after the confirmation of our former colleague, Secretary Mullen. And I'd like to congratulate Senator Fisher, a member of this committee, who's acquired now the gavel of the legislative branch.
Congratulations,
Congratulations to you, Deb. Secretary Scott Bessent is here with us today to review the Department of the Treasury's fiscal year 2027 budget request. Welcome back, Secretary Bessent. I thank you for being here. The Department's request for fiscal year 2027 proposes an 11.7% or a $1.5 billion reduction from the amount provided in the prior fiscal year. This request appropriately acknowledges that resources are limited, and it makes deliberate trade-offs among competing priorities to advance this administration's pro-growth, pro-competition economic agenda. This budget request also reflects a thoughtful effort to balance responsible stewardship of taxpayer resources while continuing to strengthen America's economic and financial leadership, and I appreciate the effort to strike this delicate balance. This budget request proposes solutions to difficult questions that financial leadership, and I appreciate the effort to strike this delicate balance. This budget request proposes solutions to difficult questions that too often some of our predecessors have preferred to avoid. Rather than responding to constraints by simply requesting additional funding, this proposal reflects a focus on improving efficiency and making targeted decisions about where resources can have the greatest impact. Mr. Secretary, I appreciate your leadership and your ability to make tough decisions that save taxpayers money and shape a leaner, more efficient government without compromising the department's core mission. That's an important goal, and one I think most members share. As the department works with these resource constraints, it will be important for Congress to understand how Treasury is prioritizing its activities, where efficiencies are being realized, and how performance outcomes are being measured. That understanding will help ensure that this subcommittee aligns resources with the areas of greatest need and greatest impact. This budget request also reflects the consequential legislation Congress passed and the President signed into law last year, the Working Families Tax Cuts Act, which was an incredible victory for all hardworking Americans. Recent IRS data shows that tax refunds this year are substantially higher than years prior, putting more money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. The Working Families Tax Cuts Act also made adjustments to how certain income is treated, including relief on items like tips and overtime, as well as expanded deductions for seniors and working families. These changes require Treasury and the IRS to create new guidance, to update systems, and to ensure that taxpayers can easily comply with these most welcome changes. In that vein, I was pleased to see that this budget request does not focus on maintaining the status quo. Rather, it addresses the department's responsibility to implement these major policy reforms, and it ensures that Treasury has the tools needed to carry them out efficiently. Beyond tax administration, this budget also reflects a broader effort to strengthen America's economic position globally. For far too long, unequal, non-reciprocal trade policies have handicapped American businesses, leading to persistent trade deficits and the erosion of our domestic industrial base. Decades of asymmetric policies have also undermined our nation's capacity to produce critical goods like ships and pharmaceuticals, and it's made us increasingly dependent on competitors
yes, we
like
have
China.
lost a lot of
This
capacity
administration is
to
taking
build
great strides in resetting the
warships at a
global
very
trade
fast
market
rate.
by negotiating a
That's
multitude of
why
international
China's
trade
Navy's
agreements
bigger,
and continuing to
but not
push
as
an America
advanced,
First
as
agenda.
far as we can tell.
Digital assets and their related technologies present new opportunities for economic growth, for capital formation, and for value storage. Properly deployed, these digital technologies will facilitate safe, secure, and instantaneous payments. America must be the global leader in this sector if we want to retain our position as the world's reserve currency. Our nation has demonstrated that it can lead innovation across any industry when it's provided with the regulatory certainty that's necessary to grow and to invest. That's why last year, President Trump signed into law my stablecoin legislation, the Genius Act, which provided regulatory clarity to help the U.S. remain a leader in digital assets and financial innovation.
Good morning. We got John VA in the house, and where John VA is, Cat 555-5 is not far behind. They will be getting married, and I'm looking forward to that day. I hope it's recorded, a marriage under God. You know why people do marriages under God? And for a long time, I didn't agree with it. But the fact that if people get married that are on disability, and listen, this is absolutely wrong of the government, they will lower your disability checks if it's filed with the IRS. They will punish you because of love. No wonder so many people are getting married like we used to before these laws existed. And I don't blame anybody who does that anymore. Not only because I'm on SSDI, I'm not married. I haven't been married in 16 years. Now, it doesn't mean I didn't date over the years. I was backslid for 7 years. But the fact that the government wants to punish you because you want to do what is right by God. You know, people could just stay fornicating. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But I came back to the Lord. I'm not afraid to admit I was backslidden. If me coming back to God nearly a decade ago can help you come back to the Lord, then you better believe I'm going to give you my testimony. I don't care what people say. I don't care what people think. I'm not in this for my stupid reputation. But if you're thinking about walking away from God, don't. Because I had 7 years of being on the other side of the fence, and the only good thing that came out of that was the most beautiful daughter that you could ever imagine. She's got the looks of her father, absolutely gorgeous. Now, that's not boasting, but more importantly, even though I'm not with her mom, because her mom and I weren't meant to be together, for that, you know, the only good thing that came out of it was a young daughter that has the intelligence of her mother, because her mother was valedictorian of her high school class and her college class. She's a surgical technician now. But she's got the looks and personality of her dad. Now, I don't know how much that's going to change over the years about her personality. But either way, she's my flesh and blood, and I do love her, as all parents love their children. But if you're thinking about walking away from God, it is not greener on the other side of the fence. It's not. As I said, the only wonderful thing that came out of me being backslidden was my beautiful daughter, Avery.
Mr. Secretary, played a critical role in the success of this legislation.
God
Particularly
will
Luke
take
Pettit
you
and Tyler
back if you
Williams on the
walk away,
development,
but don't you...
joined by Jonathan Greenstein on the implementation.
I got to say this really quick, and then we'll get right back into it. This channel, first off, this channel is a Christian ministry channel first, then news and politics. I just want to make that clear. But if you have walked away from God, try not to die. You'll be dead lost. Come back to the Lord. He's here now. He's never left you, nor forsaken you. He never will. But we can walk away from him. And if I would have died at any point in that 7 years, I would have died lost. And the only reason I left was because the devil had gotten me so down, so discouraged, I made a choice. And I just gave up. I just quit. I set my Bible down. I said, Pastor, and I said, Pastor Ward, thank you very much. Great mentor, great training in ministry. Thank you. I'm done. I set my sword down, and because of discouragement and depression, I let the devil kick me when I was spiritually on the floor, and I let him kick me to almost to a spiritual death. If I would have died while I was backslidden, I would have been lost. Come back to God today.
President Trump understands the crucial role that this industry will play in our nation's economic development and international leadership. The president has asked Congress to provide clarity through technology-neutral regulations and transparent government decision-making to foster a robust and vibrant digital economy. I'm encouraged by the efforts underway at the Department of Treasury to carry out this objective, and I'm grateful for your support for sensible stablecoin policy as we seek to promote U.S. leadership in digital assets and financial technology while protecting the economic liberty of Americans. Our nation also benefits from constructive relationships with our allies.
If you file taxes married, you get less back if you have a kid. Not in the United States, not unless that's changed. In fact, I used to joke, and I was joking. Anybody that knows me knows I'm joking. They know my kids are my life. I used to joke around and say, thank God for tax season. I got 3 Bambinos, my little tax credits. Because I think you can only claim up to 3. So I would get $8,000 to $10,000 back. Well, correction, $6,000 to $10,000 back. It depends on how much I worked that year, how much I made. And if I would have only claimed one child, I would have got maybe 2 or 3 back, 2 or 3,000 back, tops. But I claimed 3 of them, and I got nearly 10,000. So I got to disagree on that. Unless the law has changed, if you're married and you have bambinos, you're going to get a massive tax return. Then that's changed. I'm not saying that I'm not saying you're making this up or anything. Then the law has changed in the last. Let's see. When was the last time I had a tax return? 2016 or 17. One of those 2 years. So in the last 9 to 10 years, the laws have changed. Then tax law.
This subcommittee is grateful for your
But it's
daily
okay.
work
Maybe it
negotiating
did. I mean,
tariffs that
it
preserve
must
our
have.
strong relationships with those allies. The other side of that coin is countering our adversaries through financial intelligence and sanctions. While Treasury's role in the intelligence community is rarely in focus,
in fact, you get a whole lot less back if you file and you claim your child if you're single. So again, they must have changed the laws to a different way, but that's okay. Maybe they did.
its unique capabilities help safeguard the integrity of the American financial system and ultimately strengthen America's military power.
Wrong one.
Treasury's responsibilities today extend well beyond traditional finance. I appreciate your work and look forward to continuing to partner with you to ensure that the department has the tools it needs to succeed. And I look forward to your testimony, Mr. Secretary. But before you begin your testimony, I now want to turn to my colleague, the ranking member of the subcommittee, Senator Jack Reed.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us today. I look forward to your testimony, which comes at a moment where the world is in a great deal of turmoil, prompted in part by the administration's fiscal policy, its illegal tariffs, and its decision to go to war with Iran. While President Trump upends the economic apple cart, Americans are paying more at the pump and for other everyday necessities. At the start of the Iran war, gas prices averaged about $2.98 per gallon. Now Americans are forced to shell out over $4 a gallon at the pump.
I don't know. It's been going down in my state, and I'm a blue state.
While grocery and housing costs remain too high. The cost of living is simply not sustainable for the American people. Ms. Secretary, it seems that President Trump has abandoned the interest of regular Americans, and your fiscal year 2027 budget request continues this worrying trend. The fiscal year 2027 budget request for the Treasury Department totals $11.5 billion, a $1.5 billion or roughly 12% decrease from the enacted level. While the request provides increases to several Treasury offices, it cuts funding for the Inspector General, grants for community development, and enforcement of our tax laws. The proposal slashes IRS funding by $1.4 billion. This is on top of the $1.1 billion cut sustained in fiscal year 2026 last year. The IRS has pushed out more than 28,000 employees since the start of the Trump administration, and this proposal would shrink the workforce by another 4,000. This is simply irresponsible. You come from the business world, and no successful company would underinvest in its revenue collection mechanism. The IRS itself acknowledges that every dollar the agency invests in enforcement brings $11 back from tax cheats. So your own agency admits that cutting IRS staff and funding, particularly its enforcement budget, costs American taxpayers and helps tax dodgers. Indeed, cutting IRS funding is a proven windfall for the rich and puts our country on a dangerous fiscal path. Yet the IRS's budget request proposed is to cut enforcement exams on high-income individuals by 50% in fiscal year 2026 compared to fiscal year 2023. This will help wealthy taxpayers evade billions of dollars in taxes each year. The IRS should prioritize providing better service to American households, not help rich Americans game our tax system. Secretary Bessent, Suffice it to say, the administration's policies, including the IRS budget request, are clearly putting our economy and the economic security of average Americans at risk.
You're welcome,
I look
Randy.
forward to your testimony and your candid answers to our questions. And once again, I thank you, Mr. Secretary, for joining us today. Thank you.
Now I'd like to recognize Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Before becoming our 79th Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary Bessent had a successful career as a fund manager of one of the world's largest global macro investment funds before creating his own investment firm. Secretary Bessent believes America is unstoppable because its economy is unstoppable, an economy built on the deepest and most liquid markets in the world. Secretary Bessent, if you could please keep your remarks to 5 minutes, it'll allow more time for questions. Your full written statement will be included in the record. Secretary Bessent.
Good. Chairman Hagerty, Ranking Member Reed, and members of the subcommittee. I'm grateful to join you today. Treasury is committed to working with Congress to protect our nation's financial system, spur job growth, and strengthen the economy. The fiscal year 2027 President's budget request for Treasury demonstrates our commitment to boosting growth, promoting efficiency within our agency, and targeting illicit actors that threaten our national security. Treasury's budget request represents a 12% decrease from the enacted level while still building on the success of fiscal year 2026 to continue strengthening the U.S. financial system. Along with managing our own discretionary budget, Treasury is charged with managing core financial functions and payment operations for the U.S. government. I take that commitment very seriously, not only ensuring that every dollar in our budget is thoughtfully executed, but also that every dollar collected, deposited, or dispersed through Treasury is secure and timely. I would like to begin by highlighting the Treasury Department's effort to ensure accountability and deliver results for the American people. There's no better example of delivering meaningful change for everyday Americans than President Trump's working families tax cuts, of which over 60 million returns, 60 million, claimed at least one of President Trump's signature new tax cuts this filing season by enacting no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and new tax cuts for seniors and Social Security. We are delivering tax relief to working families. This season, over 7 million filers have claimed no tax and tips, with an average deduction of over $7,000.
That wet list, I just made that up.
Over 28 million filers have claimed no tax on overtime, with an average deduction of over $3,100, and over 34 million seniors have claimed the enhanced deduction for seniors, with an average deduction of over $7,500. The legislation not only delivered historic tax relief, but also began building long-term financial security for future generations through initiatives like Trump accounts, of which nearly 5.5 million accounts have been opened, with over 1.3 million children eligible for the $1,000 pilot program contribution. Trump accounts demonstrate this administration's pledge to invest in the workforce of tomorrow, giving them an ownership stake in the success of the nation. As you know, filing season ended on April 15th.
Good job, moderators.
The new
Great
leadership
job.
of the IRS has resulted in improved
tolerate
business processes and an increased focus on meeting private industry benchmarks for customer service. An increased focus on digital-first taxpayer experience has resulted in lower call volumes as taxpayers increasingly find the information they need online, and increased adoption of direct deposit, which will expedite the refunds for years to come. The budget request continues to streamline and modernize IRS operations, funding to encourage automation and technology investment, while ensuring taxpayers are met where they want to be by offering multiple service options. Although the request for IRS represents a modest decrease, we are still able to maintain current services and implement new initiatives aimed at improving customer experience and making tax compliance easier. We have introduced 2 new metrics for modernizing how IRS performance is measured, introducing a Sistor service rate and enterprise service completion rate better aligns performance measurement with how people interact with the IRS today. Additionally, the budget request targets inefficiency and duplicative spending through reductions in areas that have been operationally ineffective. I want to ensure that every dollar of taxpayer funding supports mission-critical work. By making targeted reductions in specific areas, we can enhance investments in national security by bolstering critical cyber capabilities, sanctions, and combating illicit financial activity. Treasury's Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence is at the forefront of America's fight against foreign adversaries, and the additional funding would expand Treasury's ability to trace, detect, and sanction financial networks acting in bad faith. The request also includes a small investment to advance institutional expertise in digital assets, housing finance, global financial markets within Treasury's departmental offices. This is particularly important with the implementation of the Genius Act, landmark legislation that created the first ever regulatory framework for stablecoins. As I shared earlier, I'm committed to working together to continue building on the success of the last fiscal year and look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I'd now like to turn to our committee chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, welcome. You mentioned just now in your testimony the importance of customer service and your efforts to improve it. Along with other members of the Maine delegation, I sent you a letter last month opposing the closures of 2 taxpayer assistance centers, one in Bangor, Maine, one in Augusta, Maine. The Presque Isle Center in northern Maine has already been closed for some time. These closures mean that someone from my hometown of Caribou, Maine, who needs in-person service faces a 10-hour plus round trip to the nearest taxpayer assistance center in Portland. That's the last remaining TAC in the entire state of Maine. That's just not reasonable, particularly when you consider that Maine has the oldest population by median age in the country. We have areas of the state where internet service is simply not available, and we have older adults who, even if it is available, may not have access to computers or to the skills that they need to use that method of getting help. And I will also providing customer service. Has the IRS evaluated what the impact of closing down all of these taxpayer assistance centers, except the one in southern Maine, would be on people living in other parts of the state, particularly our older adults in rural areas?
Good. Senator, thank you for your leadership on this and the entire Maine delegation. I have instructed the IRS to look into this, and we will be getting back to you. System-wide, only 10 centers were closed. I believe that one of the centers that was closed was already the unmanned, but we will get back to you, and we will remedy this 10-hour problem. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much. It really is a problem given the size of our state. I want to bring up another persistent problem in the state of Maine, and that is we have been the location for literally hundreds of illegal marijuana grow houses that are linked to transnational criminal organizations based in China. And we really need a whole of government approach. Earlier this year, I secured language calling for a State Department-led report on PRC-linked criminal syndicates and the illicit drug trade. Where Treasury comes in is there's money laundering involved. And I want to thank Treasury for providing some expertise through FinCEN, through the IRS, but it still remains a huge problem. And our sheriffs
After this
in Maine
video,
have been
we will be
terrific
going
in trying to
into
close
the
down
Word of God
these
to
grow
talk about
houses,
godly women.
But we need more federal
Proverbs
help.
chapter
We've
31.
had some from
Page 80.
Treasury, some from the Justice Department, DEA, but this is. We're talking about over 200 of these illegal grow houses. And as I said, there is a link to money laundering and the fentanyl trade as well. Could you talk a bit about how the department is working to address this dangerous operation?
Yes, Senator. Since you brought this to our attention last year, IRS Criminal Investigations and FinCEN are both involved in supporting local law enforcement and working with federal agencies to combat these problematic operations
subscribe
in
button.
Maine.
We only
Staff from these
need
teams
82 more subs.
As you said, they have
to hit
specialized financial
4,500
forensic
subscribers
and intelligence expertise.
in just over
and
370
we want
days.
to help local law enforcement
little bit more than that,
dismantle
but
these
close.
money laundering operations. So I look forward to ongoing dialogue, and per your request, I will personally look into what is going on, especially with IRS criminal investigations, who are able to move on operations like this very quickly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thank you,
475
Mr. Chairman.
days. That's how
Thank you, Chairman.
long
Thank you, Mr.
I've
Secretary.
been,
That
and
was
less
very
than that,
encouraging to
really,
see your
because
personal engagement on this critical issue.
I was able
not just
to go
for Maine, but
live
for the entire nation.
in
Senator
April
Reid.
1st. That first 2 months was
Mr. Chairman, do
getting
you want to go
enough
first?
subscribers. Which,
I'll let you go. I'll come after you.
Thank you, Mr.
435
Secretary.
days.
As I mentioned in my opening
okay with
statement,
rounding up.
your budget once again cuts IRS enforcement activities. Your own congressional justification states that every dollar spent on enforcement provides an $11 return for the American taxpayer. So that given that your own request shows this extraordinary return on investment, why does the budget cut enforcement by nearly $900 million?
Sir, the data does not support that because we cut the budget and enforcement recoveries were up 12% last year.
Yeah.
Well, if you increase the budget, you would presumably have even more. I mean, the obvious point, which I stress in my testimony, is that you're basically scheduling fewer and fewer enforcement actions, particularly against those who are very well endowed and may have either directly or indirectly made mistakes on their tax form. So it seems to me obvious that more effort would produce more resources.
Well, I think that may be the one school of thought, but we haven't seen that in educational outcomes. We haven't seen that in healthcare outcomes, that more money equals better outcomes. And at the IRS thus far, we believe in outcomes. We recovered.
Oh, I meant to put something in the chat earlier. I'm going to do that right now.
The top 5 enforcements recovered $2 billion. And as I said, the enforcements last year, are up to almost 41 billion. So I think that in during the Biden years in the IRA, that there was a scoring gimmick that was used and brought in a lot of enforcement officers. And again, the facts on the ground, to get to be a senior enforcement officer, it takes 10 or 12 years, and to bring in the new officers, at 1 year, 2 years, have almost no expertise and don't result in better outcomes. What we have found is meeting the taxpayers where they are, and using technology, we have pushed back their tax returns and say, we believe there is an error here and you will be audited. Why don't you fix it in advance?
Well, Mr. Secretary, I think it's not efficiency or even more revenue you're seeking. You're seeking, I think, to disable the ability for the federal government to reach all who are not being completely honest with their tax returns, particularly those that have the most to pay, the wealthiest in the country. as I mentioned also in my testimony, or my statement, I should say, sir, the gas prices are up more than 30%, and they're above $4 a gallon. And
even in Michigan, gas prices are dropping
on American households, and that's a nonpartisan organization.
In the last 4 or 5 days.
So you have a situation in which also healthcare is hugely expensive for people. About 17 million Americans are seeing increases because of the big, beautiful bill. Consumer sentiment is at record low. You recently claimed that in their heart of hearts, consumers feel good, but that's not supported by polling that is constant and accurate. And the idea that consumer spending is up doesn't recognize, I think, that the top 10% of the richest families account for 50% of consumer spending. So how does all of this help families solve the key price of affordability in the United States today?
Senator, I agree. After the Biden years and the 21.5% CPI level increase, the Americans were reeling. I can tell you that it is my belief that when we talk about gasoline, that the crude market is currently in what is known in the energy business a very steep backwardation, which means that the future prices are much lower than we are at present. I think the conflict will end. I think gasoline prices will come back to where they were, or perhaps lower. As they did, President Trump has shown that he is good at getting energy prices down, and that our energy dominance agenda has the lowered prices.
How fast will the prices of gasoline come down?
Again, that is path dependent on when the war and the conflict end.
Well, from a perspective of the Armed Services Committee, it's not likely to end soon. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, again, welcome. I'd like to stay on the topic that the ranking member raised with respect to technology deployment. Your extensive business career, I'm sure you've made a number of investments over your career. And when you've made technology investments, you expect to pay back, don't you?
I'm golden again.
That
gold.
payback would come, for example, in the form of higher service
gold.
levels.
I struck gold. Yay. Hopefully it stays that way.
One of the appropriate metrics.
Greater productivity, perhaps?
Greater productivity, higher customer satisfaction.
And he's married to a man,
and lower cost to
but he
execute.
can do the best
I just think
for
that
the
fits
job,
in,
and that's
your
what matters.
efforts to invest in ways that would
His
generate a
sexual
payback.
orientation's
And I
between
fully
him and
expect to see the
Jesus.
type of decrease in terms of our outlays over time,
That's
assuming
what I
the
mean.
technology is
Higher
deployed
based
effectively.
upon
So thank you for
merit,
that.
which means
Now I'd like to turn to a
qualifications
topic that is
and
obviously
abilities.
one that we work together very, very closely on. That's the Genius Act. Effective implementation of this law is vital for strengthening U.S. leadership in digital financial technology. I want to commend the Treasury Department again for moving quickly to propose its first implementing regulation earlier this month. That proposal builds on the advance notice of proposed rulemaking the Treasury issued last September. That notice sought public comment on a wide range of matters related to implementing the Genius Act. In your budget request, I was pleased to see targeted resources dedicated to carrying out the Genius Act. And to support this work, department offices are requesting $1.8 million and 6 full-time employees. These funds are focused on rulemaking and governance with an emphasis on efficiency. Additionally, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, is seeking $3 million and 10 full-time employees to drive innovation and establish national leadership in digital assets and stablecoins. Secretary Bessent, if you could just take a moment to comment on why these funds are necessary to implement the Genius Act.
Senator, to meet our obligations under the Genius Act, Treasury has already made 2 public requests for comment, published under 2 notices of proposed rulemaking and a written report we have delivered to Congress, and to continue to work effectively internally and with our regulatory partners and other agencies, we have requested this additional funding.
Makes total sense. As the Genius Act is implemented, I want to make certain that you'll ensure that the Treasury Department works with my staff on any necessary fixes as rulemaking is carried out.
Yes.
Thank you. I want to now turn the discussion to your decision to cancel contracts with Booz Allen Hamilton regarding concerns about how poorly they safeguarded sensitive taxpayer information. I appreciate your leadership on this matter, and I want to better understand how Treasury and the federal government more broadly should be addressing contractor accountability. If you could just walk us through the factors that led to your determination that contract termination was the most appropriate response to deal with Booz Allen in this case.
But that's okay. This was one of the largest data breaches in IRS
reach out
history.
to them here in a little bit after I'm done today.
As I have repeatedly said, my priorities at the IRS are customer service, collections, and privacy. And this was an egregious attack on the privacy of the thousands of American taxpayers, many of whom this was presented as a leak of the very richest taxpayers, when in fact their employees' tax returns they were also leaked. And we think that the vetting process for this contractor who got into the IRS, I believe he went in with the determination this was premeditated, and his employer failed to screen them, and we no longer have confidence in that firm's ability to screen, vet, and deploy contractors within the IRS or indeed the entire Treasury Department.
Well, I would absolutely agree with you. The cancellation of these contracts is wholly warranted. And given Booz Allen's role in facilitating politically motivated criminal acts, breaches of sensitive information, it's a disgrace. That firm obviously failed miserably. And if you think about it, this isn't the only time an employment of a government contractor has done something malicious, politically motivated, with the intent to weaponize the information that they have access to. And I think, building on your leadership at Treasury, I'm going to continue to work with officials across the administration to ensure that adequate safeguards are in place to prevent this type of politically motivated breach of public trust. Further, we're going to have to ensure that outside contractors, as well as career personnel, are held accountable when they do violate the public trust or otherwise attack or undercut America's elected representatives. Now I'd like to turn to another topic, and that's the working family.
That's a great question. It started at the beginning, I think, of last week. I've reached out already once to YouTube, my tube, your tube, who's somebody's tube, and they said they would look into it. And so I said, okay, thank you very much. I should have stood with them or stayed right there with them until, because I haven't heard nothing back yet. So I'm just going to reach out to them again. It's not a massively huge deal because, like, all the donations, all that stuff, all the super chats, all the super stickers, all that still comes through. So I'm not really losing anything. I'm not losing subscribers. I'm not losing likes from it. It's like a glitch. That's actually my name from my other YouTube channel that I don't even use anymore. And so I thought about completely deleting the other channel, but I'm not going to risk anything. I'm not going to do anything that might risk me accidentally completely deleting our channel, Mike Shriver Ministries, the main channel. So I'll reach out to them again shortly and raise some cane. And maybe I'll even be angry enough to raise his brother Abel. So they
Families Tax Cuts Act and the refunds and the economic interests that have been promoted there. The act delivered on the president's commitment to put more money into the pockets of hardworking everyday Americans. It not only prevented the largest tax increase in our nation's history, it also delivered the largest tax cut on record. It advanced President Trump's agenda by removing taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits. Now, we're a week past the conclusion of the filing season. I just would like you to please share with us how the average refund for calendar year 2025 compares to the prior year and what that means for hardworking Americans.
Well, the average refund, as we collate the final numbers, is up between 11 and 13%. We do not have the numbers now, but my inclination is going to be that those filers who use Schedule A, that their refunds would be up more than the average. And just to give you some numbers, Senator, this year we received over 155 million returns. Over 60 million filers use Schedule A for one of the president's 4 signature policies. You also the deductibility of interest on auto loans for American-made cars. The average tax cut for filers benefiting from the signature tax cuts was $800. Over 7 million filers on no tax and tips received an average deduction of over $7,000, no tax and overtime over $3,100, car interest loan deduction $1,800, and the seniors deduction $7,500. So, and importantly, we are now up to 98% of taxpayers who file electronically, and those who filed electronically, 90% of them received these refunds within 21 days.
That's great news. Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chairman Hagerty, Ranking Member Reed. Thank you, Secretary Bessent. I'll have 3 questions for you this morning about sanctions, CDFIs, and direct file. We're about 7 weeks into the war with Iran. And I wondered, Mr. Secretary, given that your department enforces sanctions, if you have a sense just how much Iran has gained through sanctions relief since the war began. I'll tell you, estimates are $14 billion. Now, President Trump's described the Obama-Iran deal as a disaster and a scandal because of the money Iran got, which was about $1.7 billion. I don't know how you describe $14 billion, but you don't have to read The Art of War to know that helping your adversaries gain money
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hey, Angela, thank you for the $5 super chat. Yeah, I fixed it. Oh, that's okay. Welcome all to the best. I hit refresh in it. Okay. Welcome all to the best place for the word and the world. We put Jesus first, America and President Trump next. Please respect them and our friends. It's on. It's on. It's on. Okay. Thank you for the $5 super chat, Angela. I appreciate you. Appreciate all of you. All of you make a difference here, whether you donate or not. I appreciate it, though, Angela. God bless you in Jesus' name. John Edwards is in the house. Hello, John. And, Larry O'Connor is going live in 2 minutes. So, guys, Larry O'Connor is, as far as the political scene goes, Larry O'Connor is by far, the best America First, pro-Trump political YouTube channel on all of the internet. I mean it. He has helped my channel grow, and many here came from Larry O'Connor. He's going live here in 1 minute. I'm going to leave my channel open and the video playing. But for a little while, I'm going to go into Larry O'Connor and chat with the people. I would love it if you guys could follow me over. Like I said, I'll keep my channel going. I'll keep the video playing. But I'm going to be in Larry O'Connor. I can do both at the same time. I can even chew gum and walk at the same time and rub my belly. Now, I have a Buddha belly now because, reasons. I'm losing weight, though. I'm very happy about that. My change of not drinking all that sugar from Coca-Cola and staying away from that corn syrup, which the Coke Zero I have, I'm going to drink all that up, and then I'm going to extend getting away from all that sugar from pop by eliminating all the corn syrup as well. They say the corn syrup's not good for us. I've drank enough corn syrup in my Coca-Cola to last 77 lifetimes. Maybe 78 or 79 if I really push that number. But yeah, I'm gonna drop it, man. I'm going to drop it. It's going to go away. I'm going to replace it with a little bit more water and coffee. Amen. So I'm going to go over to Larry with Larry O'Connor. I will put his link up here, but I will also continue playing the Scott Bessent video for those of you that don't want to go over to Larry for whatever reasons you might have. At least we can still keep something going on my end. But I want to encourage you to go with me over to Larry with Larry O'Connor for and give him a sub. He has helped me, and he's never complained about helping me. Other channels where I tried to put a link to my YouTube channel as it was growing over the last 307 or 475 days. Some people were like, "Nah, we don't allow that here," and I understood. And I said, "Well, thank you very much." I had to try, but Larry's never complained, and so I appreciate that because I think he is a Christian and a man that also supports Christianity. So yeah, I can't say I would do the same. There are some people that are part of my channel that have Christian ministry channels, and I let them, or I will advertise their channel for them on my channel because it's a Christian ministry. Why wouldn't I? But as far as anything else, and I couldn't allow too many people to do that on my channel because then it would become more like a commercial channel, right? A channel with commercials. So here's a link to Larry with Larry O'Connor. Come on over. He is outstanding. He's live at noon to 1 p.m. every day of the week, Monday through Friday. On occasion, I think I can remember at least 3 times, Larry did a Saturday episode. All right. So Larry, you won't be disappointed by this man's channel. If you're a pro-Trump, America First Christian, and even if you're not Christian, but you're pro-Trump, America First, you're going to love Larry with Larry O'Connor right here on YouTube. Now, I'm going to start up my video, let it keep playing, and I'm going to jump in and say hi to the folks at Larry with Larry O'Connor.
Money while you're at war is a terrible idea, and it's shocking to me that the countries currently profiting from the release of sanctions are our enemies. No country has profited more from this war than Russia. Oil and gas prices are up nearly 50% since February, and it'd be bad enough if Russia were just profiting from higher global oil prices. But your Treasury Department lifted sanctions on Russian oil, giving them an extra $150 million a day in revenue. And those funds are going not just to kill Ukrainians, but Russia's using its profits to support Iran with drones and intelligence to kill our troops. So, look, to summarize, I find it hard to believe that we are continuing to relieve sanctions pressure on Russia and Iran. I was encouraged when last week you said that the department would not extend the sanctions relief for Russia, yet the next day that was reversed. Can you give me any brief idea why it's a good idea to relieve sanctions on Iranian and Russian oil?
Good. With pleasure, Senator. The $14 billion is a myth and unfortunately a DNC talking point that I've been subjected to many times. If anyone would like to show me where that $14 billion comes from,
I look forward to an exchange of details on that, Mr. Secretary.
We can exchange it in a very public forum.
I'm not the DNC. I'm the senator from Delaware.
I on every talk show, and every senator seems to have.
Do you disagree that Iran has received significant additional revenue from their sales of oil because of sanctions relief?
I couldn't disagree more.
Okay. Do you disagree that Russia has received significant additional revenue from the sanctions relief?
Wait.
I couldn't disagree more.
Wait a minute. Hold
Why
her.
did you relieve the sanctions against Russian and Iranian oil?
Think of it this way, sir. There's the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, is that a liberal? Is that a liberal jaded American attacking? Hey, Chet's in the house. Chet is with us again. We appreciate him. Good to see you, Chet. I hope everything's going well. Okay, so if that's a liberal questioning Scott Bessent right now, why is he complaining about Russia at all? Do not the liberals in Congress anyway support the Russian war? Then why are they complaining anything whatsoever about Russia? That don't make a lick of sense. Not a lick.
With it.
There is oil to the
left and to the right.
Awesome,
there is
Chet.
to the right.
That's awesome.
The Treasury was able to
God
just
bless you
as
for
you
that.
are concerned about gasoline prices for the American consumer and for our Asian allies, as are we. Treasury was able to create the more than 250 million barrels on the water. And the way to think about this is, as I came in today, the oil prices are at $100. If we had not done that sanctions relief, they might have been at $150 because the world became very well supplied. So if Russia was selling their oil at a 20% discount, I can tell you that 100% of 100 is less than 80% of 150, and the American consumer has been better off.
Well,
we also,
look, the folks in Delaware are buying $4 a gallon gas today. I don't see that we've seen a significant reduction in the price at the pump or the price on the world markets, but I have two more questions I want to get to, and I look forward to disputing with you the details. I believe that Russia and Iran have benefited from the release of sanctions, and when you said we're not going to extend sanctions relief, and then we're reversed,
Democrats,
I was
make up
deeply
your
disheartened
mind.
because we shouldn't
Are
be
you
funding
for the
Putin's
Russia
war
war?
machine.
I would like to
Or are
take
you
that was as
against
a
it?
result.
'Cause you
Last
should
week
be happy
was Bank Week, World
giving
Bank,
oil
and
or
IMF
getting
week.
oil
And
to the
on
Russians
Wednesday, it was
to
my
help
belief
fight
we would not
against
do it.
Ukraine.
I was approached by
Well, let
more
me
than
rephrase
10
that.
of the most vulnerable and
Yeah, I
poorest
said that wrong,
countries
so strike that
in
from the
terms
record.
of
They
energy,
support Ukraine
and they
fighting
asked
Russia.
us to
Okay, I
extend
see
that
now.
sanction, and it's
Wow,
only for 30
I don't think
days.
I made a mistake that
30
big.
days,
on
$4.5
my
billion
channel
to
since I started.
Putin's war machine. Two quick more questions. The CDFI
I was
funds.
acting like or thinking that they support
was
Russia.
encouraged
I
by your
meant
comments
Ukraine,
in support of
strike that
CDFI
from the
last
record.
year. I am one of 32 senators, bipartisan senators, who are co-sponsors of the Daines-Warner-Afford Act, which strengthens the CDFI fund. Delaware, like most states, has a housing affordability crisis. Every dollar provided by Treasury to CDFIs crowds in $8 in private investment. I think they are a proven, bipartisan, effective way to help build affordable housing in rural and urban communities. I'm perplexed by your budget proposal, which would cut over $200 million, a more than 60% cut to this successful program. Could you tell me briefly why?
First of all, that was an OMB apportionment. The funding.
So you don't support it?
The funding is now $280 million, and I do support the new $100 million program in rural areas. And I can tell you that part of the CDFI program had lost its way in terms of a partisan agenda, and we can see, for instance.
Mr. Secretary, I have one last question for you, and I don't think funding affordable housing is a partisan agenda. Direct file. You spoke compellingly about an interest in making the IRS easier to access, more efficient, yet you shut down the direct file program. I was very disappointed by that. More than 300,000 taxpayers used it last year. It is a quick, free, U.S. government-provided way to file taxes. The average American who has simple tax filing spends $270 and 13 hours filing their taxes through paid services.
How?
Direct file saved the average
You could do
participant
your taxes
$160.
free, at least your
90% rated it
state,
favorably.
and then, or no, is it federal free?
And the
states only like
alternatives are run by
$30
for-profit
if you
tax
use,
prep companies designed to steer
your own
filers
taxes.
towards
If
paid
you
alternatives.
use,
Why'd
what
you
is it
shut
called?
down direct
TurboTax.
file when it was
So long
free
since I filed
and
my
easy to
taxes,
use?
Well, it wasn't free, and the
direct file was free to taxpayers.
Not to the American people. It's $138 per person. So $72 million for, as you said, about 300,000 taxpayers. There is an alternative, which is public-private partnership, free file, which is free to the American people. And filers, over 3 million people use that. And for direct file, more than 60% of the people who started their application didn't finish it.
Thank you for those answers, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd now like to turn it to Senator Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How much time do we have for questions? Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. I know that Treasury and IRS have been busy working on new guidance for the many great policies that are contained in the Working Families Tax Cut Act. And one of those policies is my paid family medical leave program, that tax credit. This credit provides a general business tax credit to employers to meaningfully offset the cost of providing paid family and medical leave to their employees. And I was proud to champion this back in 2017 as the first federal paid family and medical leave policy in this country, in the United States. And I also was particularly proud that it happened under Republican leadership. I was also proud that the Working Families Tax Cuts, I was able to enhance it and make it permanent now. And this is a big deal, and I think we should tout it. My team's been working with yours, and we are eager for the updated IRS guidance to be released. That'll be critical to ensuring that employers can accurately claim tax credits and deductions, and employers are eagerly awaiting the publication of this guidance. Mr. Secretary, do you have an estimate on when this guidance will be published, and can you work to ensure it is prioritized to expand access to paid family and medical leave for American workers?
Senator, thank you for your leadership on this fantastic program, and it's an important part of the Working Families Tax Cut. So issuing the guidance to implement the Section 45S, the paid family medical leave credit, is a Treasury and administrative priority. As you mentioned, our Office of Tax Policy have worked very well with your staff on outstanding Section 45S issues. We've also met with the various stakeholders, and we are working diligently and hope to issue guidance early this summer.
Thank you. I know our teams have been in touch with each other, and I'd like to have a meeting, if we could, as soon as possible on that. Do you think our teams can work to get something set up on that?
With pleasure.
Thank you, sir. I recognize the department's budget request. It decreases funding for the Community Development Financial Institutions, the CDFI fund that's there. And I want to take a moment to point out the good work that the 11 CDFIs in my state do in investing in those rural communities in the vastness of the state of Nebraska. The institutions, they take on the risk to serve those who are otherwise often overlooked or cannot be served by bigger financial institutions. They're sustaining daycares in small communities of just over 300 people. They're keeping retail stores in rural downtowns, initiating new businesses on the Winnebago and the Omaha reservations in northeast Nebraska, and they're supporting efforts to increase that rural housing developments, which is so needed. Last year, Treasury certified CDFI's programs were statutory, and earlier this month announced plans for new program rules to ensure compliance with federal law. Can you talk about your plan for CDFI moving forward?
Sure. So again, we want to make sure that it is doing what it is designed and not loaded with a partisan wish list. We also want to make sure that the CDFI program is free of waste, fraud, and abuse. There's a CDFI tricolor, which has been a very, turned out it was fraud auto lending to minority communities. So we want to avoid that. And I think what will be very engaging for the people in Nebraska will be the new $100 million that has been allocated for rural areas.
I appreciate your focus on that, because many times these rural communities are left out. And so I appreciate that focus and your acknowledgement of that, sir. Thank you.
Senator, I'm from a rural community, so I appreciate
know that. You have a good understanding of what's involved. As you know, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they provided IRS with $80 billion in a one-time funding as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. However, since then, Congress has agreed on a bipartisan basis to rescind over half of those funds, most recently in January with the enactment of the FY26 appropriations bills. Your budget request notes that the IRS expects to exhaust the IRA funding in FY28. Can you talk about the department's plans for transitioning back to a place where the IRS is budgeting and relying on the regular appropriations process rather than through this one-time, really massive infusion of funds?
It was really a scoring gimmick for the misnamed IRA. It was the Inflation Acceleration Act, and we are bringing it down. A large part of it, we have found, was in the data processing system, which is $50 billion. The upgrade is $50 billion over budget. So using common sense, lowering the number of outside contractors, and refocusing the efforts, we now have the data processing under control. About $2 billion of the reduction is in that area. So we think it is going to be more efficient. We are meeting the taxpayers where they are. And the online inquiries, they are up 60% this year.
Thank you for your work on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your recent conversations with folks in the government of the UAE. As I'm sure you probably know, President Trump and his family have done a very brisk business with the UAE over the last few years. There was the $500 million that Sheikh Tahnoon, the UAE's national security advisor and brother of the president, invested in World Liberty Financial, which is the Trump family crypto venture, right before the president's inauguration. There was the $2 billion in World Liberty's stablecoin that Sheikh Tahnoon used to invest in Binance, a deal that effectively handed World Liberty $2 billion in cash at the same time that the United States government relaxed our export controls on high-end AI and chips to UAE companies. And now I understand that the UAE is looking for a swap line. The war in Iran has already cost us dearly. In my view, it's been a huge mistake, made us less safe and a lot worse off. In addition to lives lost, we're talking about over $1 billion a day in taxpayer money. We're talking about higher gas prices, higher prices overall. And now we understand that the UAE is asking you to provide them a swap line through the Exchange Stabilization Fund. Mr. Secretary, can you talk about this request and whether or not you expect to support it?
Senator, I would dispute much of what you earlier said and any linkages to this swap line. Many of our Gulf allies have requested swap lines. You would have just read about the UAE, and swap lines, whether it's from the Federal Reserve or the Treasury, are to maintain order in the dollar funding markets and to prevent the sale of the U.S. assets in a disorderly way. So the swap line would both benefit the UAE and the U.S. And as I said, numerous other countries, including some of our Asian allies, have also requested them.
Mr. Secretary, you said you disputed some of the facts that I presented. Do you dispute the fact that Sheikh Tahnoon, through his company, invested $500 million in World Liberty Financial just before the president was inaugurated? You contest that.
I'm unaware of that.
You're not aware of that?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I dispute your linkages.
Are you aware of the other transaction I mentioned? Essentially, the $2 billion. Seriously?
I'm not.
I mean, it's been so widely reported, Mr. Secretary, and been the subject of lots of questions. In fact, I believe I've asked you about this in the past. Let me go back to the issue of how funds are being used at the IRS, because part of the purpose for providing the IRS with some additional funds was specifically to go after very high-end individuals, taxpayers who are not paying their taxes, not paying what is due to the good of the country. And as a result of that, according to CBO, we're actually going to see deficits go up. So deadbeat rich people will get away not paying their taxes, deficits go up. But the direct file was intended to give sort of working people a little bit of relief, and it did save on average $160 and got very good reviews
and this is
in
coming from
terms
a poor
of
man
people's experience with it.
by America standards.
It does go to the larger question of the IRS, which has lost 27,000 employees to actions
than
such as
anybody else
RIFs,
if you're rich.
the
You
Deferred
worked hard for your
Resignation
money.
Program, and
You
early
shouldn't be treated
retirement.
badly because you earned it.
27,000 employees left
And this comes
because
from a
of
poor man's
those actions, right?
Yes, sir, which there was quite a bit of bloat during the Biden years.
Really?
So we were just getting back to a more normalized level.
So, Mr. Secretary, you had to hire a lot of those people back, right?
We hired some people back in specific areas, not a lot of those, sir.
Yeah. But how much did it cost to both first let people go and then go back and have to rehire a bunch of them?
Again, it was not a bunch of them, and we have made very large gains in technology.
Are you aware of the fact that the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration released a report in January showing how the IRS service delivery has declined because of these changes? Have you seen that?
What I've seen, Senator, is that the Democrats said that the filing system was going to be a disaster. It's been a home run. And what you are nitpicking me on now is the difference between answering a call in 6 minutes and 9 minutes. And sir, let me tell you the way the calls used to work, that the IRS under the Biden administration would answer the call and a taxpayer in 6 minutes, and a taxpayer would be on hold for 20 or 30 minutes. Now, when the taxpayer's call gets answered, they get serviced right away. So it's a false equivalent.
Mr. Secretary, what you've done is provided a windfall to very wealthy people who don't pay their taxes.
Senator, why would I do that? Why would I do that? What is your theory of the case,
because this
what is your theory of the
because
case?
this, Mr. Secretary,
Senator Houston.
No, because this
Senator's time has expired. Senator
has time after time tilted the tax code in favor of very wealthy.
Senator Houston.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I am a big proponent of using technology to make our lives more efficient, improve customer service, get better outcomes, more compliance, all of those things. And certainly the IRS is a place that can happen. I can tell you when I was Secretary of State of Ohio, we did business filings and ran elections. And we took a paper process and turned it into a digital process and improved customer service. Forming a new business in Ohio used to take 4 days now, and then it took 4 hours. Over the course of 6 years with attrition and early retirements, we cut the size of the staff in half, reduced fees by 21%, and no longer needed any tax dollars to finance our agency. So I know firsthand how you can use technology to reduce headcount and improve outcomes. And government needs to do more of this.
Because
so
their
thank
nation
you for your willingness to lead and put technology in place to do this. I know that in looking at your budget request at the IRS, that it is reduced, but you have seen the evidences, as you said in your testimony, that revenue is up 12%,
and poor Joe Biden
even though
had no
the
clue
amount of
what was going
expenditure
on
was
anyway.
down.
He was so drugged up.
So I know from my experience and from your experience, we're seeing how technology can improve outcomes and improve customer service, compliance, and friendliness to the consumer. Can you give us a little more insight on how analytics and AI and new emerging technologies can do this at the IRS across, and maybe even suggest other areas in the government that we could do more work like this?
Well, we only have 5 minutes in terms of the other areas of the government. And Senator, I want to congratulate you because much of what you did in Iowa, I think Iowa is kind of a sleeper state.
Ohio. It's Ohio, but we're just one of those Midwestern
states. In Ohio, but the Ohio too is a sleeper state in terms of the manufacturing that is growing there. And what we are doing at the IRS is turning it into a digital-first agency. 98% of the returns will be filed online now, up from 97, and the efficiency there is vast. Paper processing costs have gone from 45 million to 20 million, and we're phasing in more electronic payments for faster and more secure electronic payments. As I told the senator from Maryland, the other thing that we are doing is that we actually, using electronic filing can go back to a taxpayer and say that you will likely be audited if you submit this tax return. Would you like to redo it in advance? And it comes back in a much more satisfactory status and prevents an audit, increases revenues. And as you brought up, the enforcement actions are up 12% this year, over $40 billion. And the top 5 enforcements resulted in more than $2 billion.
Nobody wants somebody to cheat on taxes. Everybody wants to have a better experience with the IRS. These technologies seemingly are accomplishing that. Do you think that at just the beginning of this, how much more efficiency can we get?
Sir, I think that $50 billion has gone down the drain in terms of overspending in technology. At the IRS, the upgrade program has been going on since the 90s. I think we finally have a handle on it. And I think that between new technologies, between the upgrades and getting the 12, I believe there are 12 IRS systems that we're not able to
Yeah, so a mistake was made with Ilhan Omar's taxes. So I'm under the assumption they're going to blame the computer glitch eventually. So yeah, it's probably a computer glitch. Give it a week, maybe less, maybe even by the end of today, and someone's going to come out and say it's a computer glitch. My name is Ilhan Omar, and the reason why my taxes were done wrong is not because I'm worth $35 million. It is because a computer glitch in the software made it so it looked like my husband and I had way more money than what we really do. And she's going to say, I recommend marrying your brother, but it's against God, so why are we doing it? And so, yeah, so anyway, I do believe that it will come out that Ilhan Omar's tax problem, where it says, oh, she's worth 35 million, she's going to say, well, bless Jesus, or shall I say in her case, bless Allah, bless Allah. It's because of the software, and I should be let go of this and not be held accountable and not get in trouble and not get deported and having all my assets seized because it was a tax computer glitch. You just watch. Someone's going to come out and say it. They're going to say it. There's no doubt.
To talk to each other will result in better collections, better privacy, because this is how things leak out, is old data systems, and a much better taxpayer experience.
And then finally, thank you for that. We have a $1,700 100% tax credits of donations up to $1,700 under the Working Family Tax Cut Act for vouchers, school scholarships to scholarship granting organizations. Can you tell me how many people do we expect to use this, and how are the scholarship granting organizations chosen?
They are they apply and are certified by the IRS. We do not have the total data on that yet, but I will get back to your office on that. But I think this is a very important new program.
Yeah, it would be important. I really want to understand how the scholarship granting organizations are chosen, what the rules are around that. I want to understand that. So thank you, and thank you for your service.
And we've worked with many states, like yours, to coordinate the state effort.
Randy, that was well said. Folk Rock 1319, aka also known as Randy, says that he said, we need to pass a bill where only American-born citizens can hold office at any level of government. I agree. I totally agree. There should be no one, at least in federal government, and preferably all branches and levels of government. We should have nobody that wasn't born in the United States. I'm talking states. From Alabama all the way through the alphabet. States, not our territories like Puerto Rico and what is it? What are the islands out there? It's not the Solomon Islands. Some of those islands in the Pacific that we actually call territories, they're not official states. You have to be a United States citizen, state-born in one of the 50 states in order to be in any form of government, especially federal.
With the federal effort.
Senator Bessent.
It only makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Reid, for having this very important hearing. We appreciate you being here. We also appreciate your responsiveness when we have a problem, you and especially your staff that do a great job. I want to thank you all for your leadership on digital asset policy, and I agree with your recent op-ed that we need to pass legislation. On the Senate Agriculture Committee, I'm pleased with the bill that we reported out of committee and look forward to working with my colleagues in banking. While we're still working to address important issues like ensuring the CFTC is fully constituted and has adequate resources, I believe we can address those issues and reach a bipartisan agreement, which is very, very important. Can you talk about why it's so important that Congress pass digital asset legislation?
Senator, when the United States leads in best practices, safety, and soundness in the financial world, whether it's our banking system, our securities, or now digital assets, it's important for the U.S. to lead for several reasons. One, U.S. leadership over the long term secures the primacy of the dollar as reserve currency. Two, our best practices will emanate to the rest of the world, because what had happened is digital assets were in dark, unregulated places, and they will come into the U.S., and we will be able to use our anti-money laundering and the KYC and have a much better handle on digital assets, both for payments, and I think this is going to be a very important payment rail. And again, the U.S. has to lead here. We are the technological leader in the world. We should be the payments leader in the world.
Amen,
very
bro.
good.
Preach it.
And we appreciate your help in pushing that forward. I've heard concerns from commodity groups about 24/7 trading in commodity derivatives. That will hurt the liquidity and price discovery in the underlying real world commodity markets. Will you commit to working with all stakeholders, especially commodity end users and financial regulators, on the issue?
Yes, sir.
Very much. I also want to talk about designation of clearinghouses as systemically important financial market utilities, SIFMUs. As you know, SIFMUs have access to Fed deposit accounts, which gives protections for margin money collected from farmers and hedgers. However, not all clearinghouses are designated as SIFMUs, as the Federal Reserve has been looking at new ways to provide access to deposit accounts to non-bank firms. Will you work with the Fed to look at whether the needs of non-designated clearinghouses might be considered?
Yes, sir, with pleasure, because I think it's very.
You bring up a great point with the fact that Angela says, I don't know, this is that's what Party of Satan Democrats have done to this country. Yeah, and let's just say this. It's going to sound really odd for me to say it, but it makes sense. Someone told me this. I didn't come up with this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not. Somebody else had said, if we would have had 8 years of Trump straight through, 2016 to 2024, and if a Republican, like let's just say Vance ran in 2024, and let's just say hypothetically he lost, hypothetically speaking, and the Democrats took over again, we would have 8 years straight of Democrats. For the fact that Trump was cheated out of that election was ordained by God Almighty, I have no question. Because in the last 4 years before Trump was reelected and took office in January of 2025, in that 4 years, we learned how the debauchery, the filth, the corruption, and absolute total perversion that the liberals in the House and the Senate and in the White House caused this country. They were so perverse and they were involved with such filth and debauchery and pro-illegal immigration, all that. If Trump would have not been cheated, we never would have seen the depths of the depravity that liberal politics is. We would have never known how deep the rabbit hole of liberalism truly goes. So yes, the 4 years of the Autopen administration, that poor man was taken advantage of. Jezebel Jill, as I call her, Jezebel Jill, should be imprisoned for endangerment of an elder. Endangerment. And by his endangerment, by Jezebel Jill and the Liberal Party, and there's not even Democrats anymore, guys. Calling them Democrats, it just doesn't work. Because now they're socialist Democrats, if anything. They're not John F. Kennedy Democrats. I wish we could get them back. At least the Republicans and the John F. Kennedy Democrats looked out for what was best for the country. They might not have agreed with each other, Kennedy Democrats and Republicans, on every issue, but they would have at least come together, at least in most cases, for the good of the American people and our children, even, because the perversion of our schools had not happened, not to the extent that it had in the Autopen administration. We need Kennedy Democrats back. John F. Kennedy Democrats, President Kennedy Democrats. This socialist ideology has no place. So liberalism, socialism, and communism are all the same thing. All of them are synonymous one to another. They are linked together to form an absolute disgrace of government. God knew what he was doing when Otto Penn was elected. He had no choice. In my opinion, he had to expose the depth of depravity and insanity that the liberals in Congress and in the media turned out to be.
Important that the integrity of these clearinghouses be maintained.
Very good. That's all I have. Thank you all very, very much.
And that's all I have to say about that.
I want to thank you, Mr. Secretary, for appearing before this subcommittee. We appreciate your time, your attention. Members will have 1 week to submit their questions for the record. Mr. Secretary, we'd appreciate if the department could answer those questions as promptly as possible. The subcommittee meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Adjourned. Okay, here's what's going to happen now with the channel. I'm going to make my lunch. I'm going to eat my lunch. I'm going to let my lunch settle for a little bit. I won't be long. Let's see, what is it? Almost 1 o'clock. Let's meet back here at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, which is, so let's just round it up to 1 o'clock. Let's meet back here in about 2 hours and 44 minutes, roughly 2.5 hours. Let's just say 3:30 p.m. Eastern. I will have about a 30-minute to 45-minute message, and I do intend on keeping that time limit. I'm not going to go 3-4 hours. And now probably I might go live later after that, but I'm going to go test out the waters of Lake Misaki, and maybe I'll bring us back live again fishing. Tomorrow night, what is tomorrow night? It's Wednesday right now. Friday night, I'm going to have a members only. Angela wants to celebrate her 4 years back living for God again. Amen. I think that's something to celebrate. So we're going to do a members only. And if you want to become a member, it's only like at tier level 1, it's only $2.99 a month to become a member. That's it. That's it. Just not even $3. It's actually less than half a cup, or half price of a Starbucks or a, well, let's just say a Starbucks coffee, or a Big B's coffee if you're in the Northwest. I don't know if there's Big B's. They're like a Starbucks, but I think they're better. For less than a half of expensive coffee, you can become a member to Mike Shriver Ministries right here on YouTube and catch our members only, which we've only done a couple, but we're going to do our best to start increasing those every month. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go for now. I got to finish this beautiful chicken breast with brown sugar and lemon pepper and garlic salt and 2 entire heads of garlic and 2 full yellow onions. Now, I don't eat all of it at once. I was doing that for a while, and now I'm paying the price. Well, I did pay the price because it was wreaking havoc on my bowels because I had too much of a good thing. So I'll eat probably half of that today and half of that tomorrow. Or at minimum, 8 or 10 hours after I have the first helping of it. I add bacon bits to it, brown sugar, garlic salt, a little bit of lemon pepper. Lemon pepper is awesome. Other cool kids eat lemon pepper, and you should too. You heard it right here on Mike Shriver Ministries. Okay, guys, I'm out of here for now, but not forever. I will see you at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for being here. And thank you for the super chats and super stickers. Those of you that were able to, I appreciate it. And never, ever forget. Never forget. Get that dude out of here.